I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, August 14th, 2022, and we are live. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Well, I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday. Many of you saw me there. We talked among a number of different topics. We talked about FBI search warrant served to Mar-a-Lago this past Monday, August 8th, 2022, and the fallout from that and all the lies coming from the traitor-in-chief, Benedict Donald, and all the conspiracy theories coming from the right wing, coming from Republicans as well, and circling the wagon around Donald Trump. And then on Thursday, we got the news that among the documents that the that the FBI was looking for, among the documents that the FBI was looking for were documents pertaining to nuclear weapons. Okay. So we talked about this on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I'm gonna let you hear a couple of excerpts of that show. And then I was on Faraji Muhammad's show, The Culture, on Roland Martin's network, the Black Star Media Network. I was on I made my debut on Faraji Muhammad's show this past Wednesday, August 10th. And we discussed that as well. And I dealt with a lot of history. I was on Faraji. I was actually, let me rephrase that. I was on as Faraji Muhammad's co-host. They had me on as his co-host. Okay. And I was on for 2 hours. So 2 weeks ago, you all here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation heard me as Reverend Al Sharpton's co-host on Keeping It Real. He had me on for 2 hours on his show 2 Wednesdays ago. And then Faraji Muhammad had me on his show for 2 hours on Wednesday as well. So I'm moving on up. Okay. I'm moving on up. Now we're gonna see where I move to, but but I'm moving on up. So things are happening. We try to make things happen and keep the bills paid at the same time. But we talked about this a lot on Faraji Muhammad's show. So I have a great segment I'm going to share with you dealing with that. We talked about Trump and Mar-a-Lago, and on Faraji's show as well as Roland Martin Unfiltered, I talked about a lot of history as well, because I'm not just a radio talk show host, but I'm also a historian as well. Okay. So we're going to deal with some of those topics. Now, also Breonna Taylor, on last Sunday's show, we talked about Breonna Taylor, and we talked about the Department of Justice indicting 4 officers in Kentucky in her killing for Louisville, Kentucky, in the killing of Breonna Taylor that took place in March 2020, right? So we got the news. This past week. I think it was Thursday or Friday. There was an article from the Washington Post. We talked about this on Roland Martin Unfiltered also. One of the officers who's accused of falsifying the search warrant, okay, or arrest warrant. One of the officers who is search warrant, I had it right the first time, search warrant, Officer Kelly Goodlett, okay, white female. Her attorney says she's going to plead guilty in this federal case. She's going to be the first officer to plead guilty, and she is believed that she is going to become a witness for the prosecution. The first one who admits guilt and speaks and gets a plea, they get the best deal. That's what's happening. That's good news there, because you have accountability. It took 874 days for an indictment to happen. It took 874 days for an indictment to happen, but you have some accountability coming in the killing of Breonna Taylor. All right, so we're going to talk about that on today's show as well. I have a great segment from Roland Martin Unfiltered, where we talked about this on Roland's show. Now, also, R. Kelly is back in the news. Okay, Kales, R. Kelly, I Believe I Can Fly. I bet he wishes he can fly right now. His trial on child pornography charges in Chicago is coming up starting this week, actually starting Monday. Okay, so we're going to talk about that as well, let you know what's going on there. That's very interesting. I think it was Chicago Sun-Times that had an article dealing with the trial coming up with R. Kelly. Okay, so we'll discuss that. And then there was a very interesting article, and we talked about this some in my online class today, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. There was a very interesting article that dealt with how it was a group of historians who met with President Biden for almost 2 hours on August 4th. And these historians, and some of them you see on MSNBC, Michael Beschloff, as well as John Meacham, these historians are warning President Biden that democracy is teetering. And one of the references that they made is the period of time leading up to the U.S. Civil War. And this is something I've been talking about here on this show. I've been talking about on Roland Martin's show. I talked about it on Reverend Al Sharpton's show, Politics Nation. We talked about it on Faraji Muhammad's show, The Culture, this past Wednesday. All right. This is a critical period in history that we're dealing with. And as I said before, and once again, the call-in number is 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600. We're live this Sunday, August 14th, 2022. You're live 2 hours with Michael Imhotep. As I said before, I was never one of these people who parroted the narrative coming from corporate media and coming from the pollsters that Democrats, it was automatic that Democrats were going to lose control of the House of Representatives, lose control of the U.S. Senate. I never bought into that narrative. Number one, I study politics. So you compare the accomplishments and policies of the Democrats, compare that to the Republicans, is much better. Just this past week, you had the CHIPS bill signed into law dealing with microchips. You had the Friday, you had the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 that passed the House of Representatives. Is going to be signed into law this week. You've had a number of wins for President Biden and the Biden-Harris administration just in these past 6 weeks. But that's on top of the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. And most Americans don't know the infrastructure bill is passed. That's on top of all these other accomplishments that have happened. So the way I frame this, and I said this on Faraji Muhammad's show, and it blew him away. The way I frame this 2022 midterm election is that this is the first midterm election since an insurrection that has taken place in this country, since the 1866 midterm election, the year after the Civil War ended. I know all the pollsters and Steve Kornacki on MSNBC, I know they like to say, oh, well, except for 2 times in the past 100 years, the party that's in the White House has lost seats in the House of Representatives or the Senate in the first midterm elections. All that goes out the window. You've never had, everybody listen to me, you've never had a sitting president incite an insurrection and call for the vice president to be executed. You've never had that in the history of this country. You never had a sitting president send domestic terrorists to the U.S. Capitol building to interrupt a constitutionally mandated process of certifying the electoral college votes so that the sitting president can overthrow the government and stay in power. That has never happened in the history of this country. So you can't look at these midterm elections just as business as usual. No, it's not. Not if you understand history. It's not business as usual. And then when you look at the article, and we talked about this today in my Sunday online history class that I teach, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. So some of you watching were in today's class. We talked about this article here that came out Wednesday, August 10th. Historians privately warned Biden that America's democracy is teetering. Historians privately warned Biden that America's democracy is teetering. Well, he has enough sense to meet with historians. See, Trump doesn't have enough sense to do with that. Oh, he put together the 1776 commission with their ahistorical account of history, then it's history. But Donald Trump doesn't have enough common sense to do something like this. When Biden with historians last week at the White House, they compared the threat facing America to the pre-Civil War era and to pro-fascist movements before World War II. We're going to talk about this later on in the show, okay? That's from August 10th, 2020. This is what I've been warning people about. This is exactly what I've been talking about, okay? All right, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about R. Kelly. I got these new earbuds because I broke my other earbuds yesterday in class. So I got these keep popping out my ear. I got to buy some new earbuds. It never ends. And we're going to give you we'll review some of the things that we talked about in our online class this weekend. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school, and from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Now, on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right and wrong behavior, what you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we do it a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We do current events in history, politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, love, sex, health issues, and much more, and relationships. Sometimes I keep forgetting relationships has a lot to do with what's going on in my life, but and relationships. Okay, long story. And much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, the 22828 to sign up for our text the word Kemet, Kemet, the 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, calling number is 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Okay, so there was a when we come back from the break, I'm going to let you hear the press conference that Walk Softly, Carry a Big Stick, Attorney General Merrick Garland did. I told people I was never one of these people buying into Merrick Garland's a punk, all this stuff. No. Merrick Garland was a federal judge. Merrick Garland is very even-tempered, mild-mannered. Don't confuse that with being weak, okay? You remember in the movie American Gangster? You remember the movie American Gangster with Denzel Washington, who's probably my favorite actor, Denzel Washington, playing Frank Lucas. And there's the scene where his brother, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, is there in the nightclub, and Chiwetel Ejiofor wants to be like Nicky Barnes, and he's dressing flashy, and Denzel tells him, the loudest guy in the room is the weakest guy in the room. The loudest guy in the room is the weakest guy in the room, okay? We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. All right, stand by, everybody. Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Okay, share this broadcast in social media platforms. Share this broadcast in social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. Stand by. We're on commercial break. Back from break in 4 minutes. Oh, man, is there short in these? Stand by. Can everybody hear me okay? Sounds like there's a short in these earbuds. Okay, back from break in 4 minutes. All right, follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. Turn on live notifications so you know when we go live also. I'm trying to put this article here. Stand by. Oh, what the fuck? Back from break in 3 minutes. There's a good article, Street Journal. We're going to pull this up here. FBI recovered 11 sets. Let me sign in. I just got a subscription to the, just renewed my subscription to the Wall Street Journal. Come on. What the hell's wrong with this? Break in 2 minutes. Stand by. Bathroom break in 1 minute. Stand by. Welcome back to the History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, August 14th, 2022, and we are live. All right, I want to go to the press conference that Attorney General Merrick Garland held on Friday. And what happened was, after the search warrant was executed on Monday. Now, keep in mind, people, Donald Trump said this was a raid. This was not a raid. Okay, a raid is when they come in your house, kick down the door, 6 o'clock in the morning, point guns at people, handcuff people, things like this, tear the place up. That's a raid. This was not a raid. Okay, Donald Trump is exaggerating, and then he started raising money immediately. He was the one who announced what happened. Okay, and he basically lied about what happened. He basically lied about what happened, and he didn't talk about the fact that subpoenas were issued months ago. Okay, and there was still documents that he did not, classified documents that he did not turn over. Okay, so I want to go to this press conference here from this took place on Friday, August 12th. Friday, August 12th. Attorney General Merrick Garland, who walks softly and carries a big stick, put the smack down on Donald Trump. And what he did was he filed a motion to have the search warrant unsealed so people can see what the search warrant was for. Let's go to clip number 1, Giovanni.
Good afternoon. Since I became made clear that the justice will speak through its court filings and its work. Just now, the Justice Department has filed a motion in the Southern District of Florida to unseal a search warrant and property receipt relating to a court-approved search that the FBI conducted earlier this week. That search was of premises located in Florida belonging to the former president. The department did not make any public statements on the day of the search. The former president publicly confirmed the search that evening, as is his right. Copies of both the warrant and the FBI property receipt were provided on the day of the search to the former president's counsel, who was on site during the search. The search warrant was authorized by a federal court, required finding of probable cause. The property receipt is a document that federal law requires law enforcement agents to leave with the property owner. The department filed a motion to make public the warrant and receipt in light of the former president's public confirmation of the search, the surrounding circumstances, and the public interest in this matter. Faithful adherence is the bedrock principle of the Justice Department and of our democracy. Upholding the law means applying the law evenly, without fear or favor. Under my watch, that is precisely what the Justice Department is doing. All Americans are entitled to the even-handed application of the law, the due process of the law, and to the presumption of innocence. Much of our work is by necessity conducted out of the public eye. We do that to protect the constitutional rights of all Americans and to protect the integrity of our investigations. Federal law, long-standing department rules, and our ethical obligations prevent me from providing further details as to the basis of the search at this time. There are, however, certain things I want you to know. First, I personally approve the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. Second, the department does not take such a decision lightly. Where possible, it is standard practice to seek less intrusive means as an alternative to a search and to narrowly scope any search that is undertaken. Third, let me address recent unfounded attacks on the professionalism of the FBI and Justice Department agents and prosecutors. I will not stand by silently when their integrity is unfairly attacked. Men and women of the FBI and the Justice Department are dedicated, patriotic public servants. Every day, they protect the American people from violent crime, terrorism, and other threats to their safety while safeguarding our civil rights. They do so at great personal sacrifice and risk to themselves. I am honored to work alongside them. This is all I can say right now. More information will be made available in the appropriate way and at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Attorney General, the former president, FBI agent.
Thank you all for your questions. As I said, this is all I can say at this time.
All right. So that was Attorney General Merrick Garland putting the smack down right there. And usually the Department of Justice does not make announcements about a search warrant like that. They only come out and make announcements once they have filed charges. Charges have not been filed here. Usually the Department of Justice doesn't do that. But because Donald Trump was calling for the search warrant to be unsealed because you had conspiracy theorists floating around with nonsense. You had the guy who went and attacked the Cincinnati FBI field office. They shot and killed him. What would you think was going to happen? Okay, but because all this is going on, Attorney General, so I don't think Trump and his attorneys thought Attorney General Merrick Garland was going to file a motion to unseal the search warrant, but he did. This is what happens. Donald Trump is going to learn that fat meat is greasy. Okay. Now, if we look at this article here from the Wall Street Journal, and, you know, for $39.99, because I had a subscription to the Wall Street Journal before, and it was after the introductory rate, it went up to $39 a month. I'm not paying Rupert Murdoch $39 a month for the Wall Street Journal, but they had a special offer, $8 a month. And when this article came out, because I went to go read it as soon as this article came out on it came out Friday. So I said $8 a month. I'll pay Rupert Murdoch, because Rupert Murdoch owns the Fox News channel as well. Okay, and he owns the New York Post, the right wing New York Post that prints a whole lot of conspiracy theories. That's Rupert Murdoch. But anyway, this article here from the Wall Street Journal. FBI recovered 11 sets of classified documents in Trump search inventory shows. FBI recovered 11 sets of documents in Trump search inventory shows. And some of the documents are classified as top secret, sensitive, compartmented info. Okay, sensitive compartmented info. Now, when you go through and read this, when you have something that's top secret, sensitive compartment info, that's higher than regular top secret. And that information has to be stored properly in a SCIF. It can't be stored in a storage room at Mar-a-Lago. Okay. And when you review type of highly sensitive information, you review it in a self-contained room called a SCIF. You can't take in cell phones in there. You can't take pictures. You can't take recording devices, etc. All right. So FBI agents who searched former Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home on Monday removed 11 sets of classified documents, including some marked as top secret and meant to only be available in special government facilities. That's SCIF, okay? Some of them meant to only be available in special government facilities, according to a search warrant released by a Florida court on Friday. Now, the FBI agents, the Federal Bureau of Investigation agents, FBI agents, took around 20 boxes of items, binders of photos, and a handwritten note, and the executive grant of clemency for Donald Trump's ally, Roger Stone, the dirty trickster Roger Stone. A list of items removed from the property shows. Also included in the list was information about the president of France, according to the 3-page list. The list is contained in a 7-page document that also includes the warrant to search the premises, which was granted by a federal magistrate judge in Florida. Okay. Now, so you have to understand, when you get a search warrant, the police have to go to a federal judge, the authorities, FBI, they have to go to a federal judge, present the evidence. They don't tell the judge who the target is, but they have to present the evidence, and the federal judge signs off on a search warrant. Okay. So you had the Department of Justice and the judicial branch of the federal government, a federal judge involved in this. Okay, this wasn't some, as they try to say on Fox News. You had Steve Scalise, Minority Whip Steve Scalise out of Louisiana. He was on Fox News, Fox and Friends, and he tried to insinuate it was some rogue FBI agents. No, this ain't no rogue FBI agents. No, you got a rogue former president. Get it straight, Steve. And isn't it interesting that it was 2 Black Capitol Hill police officers who saved Steve Scalise's life when his behind got shot? Okay, when his behind got shot a few years ago. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a question or comment, listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Hey, Giovanni, are you there? Stand by. Bathroom break in 4 minutes. Stand by. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. You can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. Bathroom break in 3 minutes. Stand by. Okay, if you missed our online classes this weekend, you can still register for them. And as soon as you register, you can watch the classes. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You go back and watch it anytime. Saturday, we taught ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So we have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And when we come back from the break, I'll announce that information. Bathroom break in 2 minutes. Trump Mar-a-lago search. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, August 14th, 2022. And we are live calling 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, I want to go back to this story here from the Wall Street Journal dealing with FBI recovered 11 sets of classified documents and Trump search inventory shows. Before we go back to that, hey, I want to remind you, you can register for the online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. We had two great classes this weekend. Okay, if you missed the classes, as soon as you register, you can watch them because we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. And you can watch from around the world as well. On Saturdays, I teach ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Also, when I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday at the end of the show, I did a plug for these two classes also. Classes on sale, $60, regularly $130. We do the session Saturdays, normally 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes I have to change it because of my schedule, and sometimes I'm at events on the weekend, but I'll let you know ahead of time. Then on Sundays, we teach from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Okay, same time, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the information right here on the homepage of our website. The classes are regularly $130. They're on sale $60 each. We have a bundle pack where you can register for both classes for only $100 for a very limited time only. You can use this information with your children as well. I would say the content is PG-13. Visit our website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We also have the information in the thread of the broadcast also. Okay, the thread of the broadcast here. All right, calling number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right, so I want to go back to our lead story here. I want to go back to this article from the Wall Street Journal, and this one came out it originally came out on Friday, and it was updated on Saturday, August 13th. Okay, name of this article: FBI recovered 11 sets of classified documents in Trump search inventory shows. Trump allies claim the former president declassified the documents recovered from Mar-a-Lago. We're going to explain why that's a lie, because there's a process that you go through to declassify documents, number one. But number two, even if every document, the 15 boxes that were taken out a few months ago, and then the 20 boxes, around 20 boxes that they took out on Monday, even if all that was declassified, because of the Presidential Records Act, because of the Presidential Records Act of 1978, that stuff does not belong to the president. It belongs to the federal government, and is kept at the National Archives, okay? The Presidential Archives. The outgoing president can't take that stuff with them. That's illegal. So even if all the documents were declassified, and there's a process to go through to declassify the documents, you can't just wave a magic wand and say they're declassified. Number one, from all the experts, all the security experts, you have to go to you have to contact the department that classified the documents in the first place to make sure that you declassifying the documents does not cause a problem, does not reveal secrets, does not put people's lives in jeopardy. You can't just wave a magic wand and say these are all declassified. The other thing is Donald Trump's dumb ass doesn't read. So what does he need classified documents or declassified documents for? Donald Trump doesn't read. Why does he need documents pertaining to nuclear weapons, as the Washington Post reported on Thursday? Now, we don't know whose nuclear weapons. We don't know whether it's the U.S., adversaries, allies, things like this. But why does Donald Trump doesn't know about nuclear weapons, and he doesn't read? So why does he need these documents? Who had access to these documents at Mar-a-Lago? The people in and out of Mar-a-Lago, people from all over the place, who had access to these? So if we go back to this piece here from the Wall Street Journal, the list includes, so you had around 20, the FBI took out around 20 boxes of items, binders of photos, a handwritten note, and the executive grant of clemency for Trump's ally, Roger Stone. A list of items removed from the property shows. Okay, so the list includes references to one set of documents marked as various classified TS SCI documents. Okay, top secret, sensitive, compartmented info. Top secret, sensitive, compartmented info. Okay, that's an abbreviation. Refers to top secret, sensitive, compartmented info. It also, now, sensitive compartmented information, that's a higher classification than just regular classified document. Okay, 3 sets of secret documents and 3 sets of confidential documents. The list did not provide any more details about the substance of the documents. Now, Donald Trump's lawyers argue that the former president used his authority to declassify the material before he left office. While a president has the power to declassify documents, there are federal regulations that lay out a process for doing so. Plus, there's underlying supporting documentation to prove that you declassify the documents, because the stamp that's on the documents gets changed from classified to declassified. So where's the supporting documentation to prove that he declassified the documents? They're just lying. They're just throwing stuff out there. The narrative changes from day to day. They're just trying to throw this stuff out here to see what sticks. Because it was Friday that Donald Trump came out and said he declassified it. You didn't say that Monday when you sent out a letter to your database trying to raise money and claim that the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago. That wasn't a raid. They served a search warrant. We talked about this on Faraji Muhammad show on Roland Martin's network, the Black Star Media Network, and on Roland's Facebook fan page and YouTube channel. We talked about this. I was guest co-host on Wednesday. That was Wednesday, August 11th. And we discussed this with Faraji Muhammad. Let's go to clip number 2, Giovanni.
Here to talk to us about this situation and to give us some context as to what we're looking at, and more importantly, what should we expect as we move this whole situation forward, is my brother Michael Imhotep. Brother Michael has been doing the great work of using his platform as he is the host of the African History Show Network. And it's live on, the African History Network show that can be heard live on Sundays from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. WFDF. And he's also an educator as well as a contributor for Roland Martin Unfiltered, and just an all-around good brother. Brother Michael, thank you so much for joining me today here on The Culture, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brother Faraji. How you doing today?
Oh man, I'm doing well considering the situation. So let's kind of break this thing down, man. Right. Because there are so many conversations, Brother Michael, about is this the nail in the coffin of Trump? Is this the beginning of the end for the former president? Now, you and I, we've been on Brother Roland's show. We've talked about Trump many, many times.
Sure.
But this whole situation feels a lot different. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely a lot different.
It feels a lot different. They used to call him Teflon Don. I remember that name. That stuck with him for years, Brother Michael, calling him
Right.
Teflon Don. Because
Right.
there were so many allegations and accusations, and yet nothing would seem to stick. However, this feels different. Not only was that, like I mentioned, the subpoena that the president was given months ago to ask for those documents, he didn't fully adhere to that subpoena. And then he got this investigation happening in New York State with the state's attorney, Letitia James, our sister
Right.
up there, around the attorney general there, around his business practices for the Trump organization. What is going on?
Well, what's happening is this stuff is really catching up with Trump, and he's getting hit from all different directions at the same time. And this is what I said was going to happen. I said, first of all, I wasn't sure if he was going to run for re-election, say like a year ago. I wasn't really sure if he was going to run for re-election, number one. And one of the reasons why I said that is because he's going to be hit with so many investigations. You have the January 6th committee, and we see what's coming out of there. And then also you have the Department of Justice doing their investigation as well, which goes even beyond the January 6th committee. You have the subpoena and these classified documents. Now, we found out back during earlier this year, back around February or so, about 15 boxes of classified documents that Donald Trump had at Mar-a-Lago. And they were recovered, but we didn't know that there were still documents that were classified that were not recovered. So we found out that, number one, there's an article from NBC News, NBCnews.com from August 9th, which would have been Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. Trump's legal team was in talks with DOJ this spring over records stored at Mar-a-Lago, attorney says. And this goes back to talks between Trump's legal team and the Department of Justice as recently as early June 2022 over these documents. And then we see the reporting from the New York Times today, subpoena preceded search warrant and push to retrieve material from Trump. So, and it was suspected by legal analysts and scholars that the search warrant was, number one, the last resort, because they could not get these classified documents through other means, through a subpoena. Okay, number one. Number two, it's suspected that these classified documents must be very, very important, very, very sensitive, because there's never been an FBI serving a search warrant on a former president's house. This is unprecedented, okay? And also it's important to understand, and a lot of legal analysts have said this, as well as attorney DeMario Solomon Simmons on Roland Martin Unfiltered a couple of days ago. He said this was not a raid that was conducted on Mar-a-Lago. This was the FBI serving a search warrant. Okay, a raid is when they come in 6 o'clock in the morning, kick down your door, ransack your house, things like this. Okay, this was not a raid. That's the language Donald Trump used to draw sympathy, because he's fundraising. on this. Okay, but yeah, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more that's going to be coming because this, as far as we know right now, this search warrant is not connected to the January 6, 2021 insurrection, as far as we know right now. There's still going to be coming. There's still going to be more coming from the DOJ dealing with the January 6 investigation as well. So, it's a whole lot coming. We're going to have some very busy news cycles coming.
All right. Pause it right there. Pause it right there, Giovanni. Pause it right there, Giovanni. We're gonna pick this up on the other side of the break. Okay, pause it right there, Giovanni. Okay, we're gonna pick this up on the other side of the break. We'll pick this up on the other side of the break. Thanks, Giovanni. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, everybody. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. All right, that was a short break. Okay. Wasn't expecting that, but that's fine. Okay, in just a second, we'll go back to that clip from The Culture with Faraji Muhammad. And then in the second hour, I'll play the excerpt from Roland Martin Unfiltered when I was on Roland Show Friday. But I want to talk about this article here from the New York Times from August 12th, 2022, because Friday, Donald Trump came out and said that he declassified all of the documents, okay? The 15 boxes of documents that the FBI took in early in the year because there was a subpoena. There was a piece from the New York Times, subpoena preceded search warrant and push to retrieve material from Trump. So we'll bring up that article because I have a ton of information on this. This has been an evolving story, all right? But there was a subpoena that was issued earlier in the year, and there were boxes taken out from Mar-a-Lago in around February of this year, February or March or so of this year. Okay, so and they tried to get the remaining documents by a subpoena, and they couldn't get all of them. A Trump attorney signed off in June saying that you have all the classified documents. Apparently not. If we look at this piece from Charlie Savage from the New York Times, August 12, 2022, Trump claims he declassified all the documents in Mar-a-Lago. Even if that's true, it probably doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter. Okay. Former President Donald Trump claimed on Friday that before leaving office, he declassified all the documents the FBI found in this week's search of his Florida residence that agents described as classified in a list of what they seized. Now, if Donald Trump declassified all these documents before he left the White House, why didn't he say on Monday? Why didn't he say that on Tuesday? Why didn't he say that on Wednesday? Why didn't he say that on Thursday? He manufactures this excuse on Friday. Why didn't he say that on Monday when he had that the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago? Why didn't he say that then? Because it's not true. That's why. Quote, Trump said in a statement, it was all declassified. Now, the claim echoed an assertion in May of 2022, the claim echoed an assertion in May of 2022 by Kash Patel, a former Trump administration official and a major supporter of Donald Trump, after the National Archives, the U.S. National Archives, found materials marked classified in boxes of documents it removed from Trump's Mar-a-Lago club and estate. He asserted that Donald Trump had deemed those files declassified shortly before leaving office, but that the markings had not been removed from them. Okay, but you're supposed to consult with the agency that classified the documents as classified in the first place, and the level of classification of top secret or whether it's sensitive compartmented info, because you got to make sure that you declassifying it does not put national security at risk, does not put people's lives at risk, etc. You just can't wave a magic wand. You know, in the movie Men in Black, and they have that shiny flashy thing and they flash it and then it erases memory. You don't have one of those as president to just magically declassify stuff. Donald Trump has offered no details, but he is saying he made a blanket oral invocation that all the files he took to Mar-a-Lago were unclassified, without making any formal written record that would be difficult to prove or disprove. That's not how you declassify stuff. That's not how you declassify things. And even if everything was declassified based upon the Presidential Records Act of 1978, you still can't take it with you. It doesn't belong to the president, so you're still wrong. Even if there is no evidence that Donald Trump followed normal procedures for declassifying certain types of information, his lawyers argue that he was not constitutionally bound to obey such rules. You would think a former president would want to ensure that they don't violate national security. You know, you want to make sure that you would think that a former president would want to make sure that classified documents, right, don't fall into the wrong people's hands, that they're secured properly. So what they're not asking on Fox News, most of them on Fox News are not asking, why did he take these documents in the first place? Why did he take these documents in the first place? If there's information about nuclear weapons, what does Trump need with that? Or does somebody else like Vladimir Putin need that information? But in any case, such a claim would not settle the matter. For one thing, two of the laws that a search warrant executed at Mar-a-Lago this week referred to, sections 1519 and section 2071 of Title 18 of the United States Code. This is federal law, United States Federal Code, sections 1519 and 2071, make the taking or concealment of government records a crime, regardless of whether they had anything to do with national security. So Trump conjures up this lie on Friday, but I don't know who he bounces lie off with. Bounces, because you're still wrong. And it's still a violation of federal law. United States Code sections 1519 and 2071. They make the taking or concealment of government records a crime, regardless of whether they had anything to do with national security. For another, laws against taking or hoarding material with restricted national security information, which generally carry heavier penalties than theft of ordinary documents, do not always line up with whether the files are technically classified. That is because some criminal laws enacted by Congress to protect certain national security information operate separately from the executive branch's system of classifying documents, created by presidents using executive orders as confidential, secret, or top secret. Okay, so these are the three classifications of classified documents: confidential, secret, or top secret. So what they're saying is that this came out like Friday. He could be in violation of the espionage. Trump can be in violation of the Espionage Act. We haven't even gotten the charges from January 6, 2021 insurrection that he incited. He's got this that he has to deal with. In particular, a third law, the warrant references Section 793 of the United States Code, which carries a penalty of up to 10 years in prison per offense. Up to 10 years in prison per offense. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network. $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast. Back from break in 4 minutes. Who still needs to register for the online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? Okay, stand by. Okay, back from break in 4 minutes. Okay, we got Fly Girl, Ripple Effect. Who's this? This is G1 first, C1 first. You can post here on the thread of the broadcast. We've got Ruby, Lightburn, Kenya Randall. Just a few of the people watching. Don Charles. We got Minister Malik Shabazz out there also. Shout out to Minister Malik Shabazz. A Wait, Sunflowers. All right, back from break in 3 minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 2 minutes. Back from break in 1 minute. Back from break in 1 minute.
(910 AM) Superstation, a division of Adele Media. The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media. We got the topics, the guests, the opinions, and the facts.
I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. You know, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We do recurring events of history and much, much more. We're going to give you an update on what's going on. This is about self-preservation. We have to extinguish the fire of white supremacy to elections have consequences.
Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation.
All right, welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. Okay, calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Okay, I want to go back to the article we were dealing with from the New York Times. This counters the lie that Donald Trump came up with on Friday, because he came out Monday and he announced, he said, Mar-a-Lago has been raided. That wasn't a raid. They served a search warrant. Friday, he came out with the lie and said, oh, he declassified all of these documents, the 15 boxes that were taken out earlier in the year, and then the 20 boxes that they took out on Monday. He declassified all that stuff before he left. How'd you have time to declassify all that before you left the White House when you were busy giving out pardons? How'd you have all that time to declassify all these documents before you left the White House? You were so busy giving out pardons. I don't think you had time to declassify this stuff. You definitely didn't have time to go through the proper channels to declassify these. Read this article here from the New York Times. Trump claims he declassified all the documents at Mar-a-Lago, even if that's true. Hold on just a second. Even if that's true, it probably doesn't matter. This is by Charlie Savage. Excellent article about Charlie Savage. Let's go back to this article. Then we'll go back to the clip from me on Faraji Muhammad's show, The Culture, on the Black Star Media Network, Roland Martin's network. And then we'll go to the phone lines. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Okay, so the article goes on to say, but in any case, such a claim of declassifying all these documents would not settle the matter. For one thing, two of the laws that a search warrant executed at Mar-a-Lago this week referred to, sections 1519 and 2071 of Title 18 of the United States Code, this is federal code, federal law, make the taking or concealment of government records a crime. The taking or concealment of government records a crime, regardless of whether they had anything to do with national security. Okay, yeah, we're going back to the second video here in just a minute from The Culture with Faraji Muhammad, Giovanni, in just a minute here. For another, laws against taking or hoarding material with restricted national security information, which generally carry heavier penalties than theft or ordinary documents, do not always line up with whether the files are technically classified. That is because some criminal laws enacted by Congress to protect certain national security information operate separately from the executive branch's system of classifying documents created by presidents using executive orders as confidential, secret, or top secret. Okay. In particular, a third law, the references was Section 793 of the United States Code, which carries a penalty of up to 10 years in prison per offense, better known as the Espionage Act. Better known as the Espionage Act. It was enacted by the U.S. Congress. World War I is 1914, 1918. We did World War I in the 10-week online history class I teach on Sundays, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. It was enacted by Congress during World War I, decades before President Harry S. Truman issued an executive order creating the modern classification system for the executive branch of the federal government. Now, as a result, the Espionage Act makes no reference to whether a document has been deemed classified. Instead, it makes it a crime to retain without authorization documents related to the national defense that could be used to harm the United States or aid a foreign adversary. That could be used to harm the United States or aid a foreign adversary. Now, do you remember back in 2017 when Donald Trump had a meeting at the White House, and it meeting with Sergei Lavrov, ambassador to Russia, ambassador from Russia to the U.S., Sergei Lavrov, and no U.S. photographers were there in the room. U.S. media wasn't there in the room. Okay, but then Trump showed classified documents to the Russians there in the White House. Okay, you remember that? So, yeah, okay, yeah. See, Trump is gonna mess around and find out that Fazzy keep this right here. He's gonna have to deal with this, possibly violating the Espionage Act. He's gonna have to, and the January 6th investigation as well. Now, prosecutors could argue that a document meets prosecutors could argue that a document meets that act's standard regardless of whether Donald Trump had pronounced it unclassified shortly before leaving office. By the same token, defense lawyers could argue that it fell short of the standard regardless of how it had been marked. But the problem is, because of the Presidential Records Act in 1978, that stuff doesn't belong to the president. He can't take it with him. He can't take it with him, period. Belongs to the federal government. So any way you slice this, he's still wrong. Any way you slice this, he's still wrong. Okay, I want to go back to this segment here. We talked about this on The Culture with Faraji Muhammad on the Black Star Media Network. I was a co-host. I was on for 2 hours on Faraji's show on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, August 11th or August 10th. Wednesday, August 10th. Let's go back to this clip, Giovanni.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
at the same time. It's the
same time, bro. Like, and when you look at how the former president moves, right? Like, he can handle one at a time. You know, I mean, let me tell you, he must be spending, money over money in lawyers to handle all of the investigation. And then these aren't just like petty beefs. This is like federal government.
The National Committee is paying his legal fees. He got them to pay his legal fees. So they're paying his legal fees. And, once again, he's strong-arming them. But I think a lot of this is going to implode. So there was a poll taken, I think it was June of this year, where about 50% of Republicans did not want Trump to run for re-election. They're looking at other people like Ron DeSantis.
I remember reading that.
Things like this. And then when you have a search warrant like this from the FBI, this is totally unprecedented, okay? And you're going to have coming out from the January 6th committee. I don't think it's going to be more Republicans who want Trump to run now.
Right.
I think this is going to be really negative, especially with him railing against the FBI. Okay, this is supposed to be the party of law and order. Okay, they backed the blue until the coup. So you can't be the party of law and order. Then you're coming out against the FBI. But then this morning on Morning Joe, if you can get this clip, if Roland can get this clip, man, play this on your show. This morning on Morning Joe, they showed a montage of commentary from Fox News from when you had the Hillary Clinton email scandal. And all these people on Fox News, were saying that the FBI needs to investigate, they need to do search warrants, all this stuff. They were calling for the FBI to go after Hillary Clinton. Okay?
And let me add to that.
Yep.
The big piece that was circulating on Twitter was Mike Pence's Twitter tweet where he praised the FBI.
Right.
And he tagged real Donald Trump at that time. He tagged him and said, "We thank the FBI, we commend the FBI for looking into this situation." He praised the institution. Now you're talking about some people concerned. This is crazy.
And the FBI director was nominated by Trump, Christopher Wray. The FBI director was nominated by Donald Trump. Okay, so now you have these commentators on Cool Plotter TV. You have them now railing against the FBI after he didn't turn over all the classified documents. And it's important for people to understand the 1978 Presidential Records Act. Okay, all those documents, even if Trump declassified them before he left the office, they don't belong to him. They belong to the public. He cannot keep those documents. He has to turn them over so they can be properly preserved. So even if he declassified all the documents, which would be problematic because there's supposed to be a process as you go through to determine. You're supposed to get like some advice on whether you should declassify this or not. Okay, but even if he did declassify all the documents, they don't belong to him. He can't keep them, so he's still in violation of the Presidential Records Act of 1978.
Hey, pause it right there, Giovanni, for me. Pause it right there, okay? All right. We're gonna go to the phone lines here. Just 1 second. I just want to show you the title of this one here, and we'll deal with this after we go to the phone lines. This article right here from the New York Times also. So keep in mind, I read New York Times, Washington Post every day. I monitor about 35 different news sources on a daily basis, right? Trump lawyer told Justice Department that classified material had been returned. Trump lawyer told Justice Department that classified material had been returned. The lawyer signed a statement in June of 2022 that all documents marked as classified and held in boxes in storage at Mar-a-Lago had been given back because the FBI came early in the year to collect. They got 15 boxes of classified documents. The search at the former president's home on Monday turned up more. So the attorney was wrong. Apparently, the attorney was wrong. Somebody ain't telling the truth. This was August 13th, Saturday, August 13th, 2022. Okay. At least one lawyer for former President Donald Trump signed a written statement in June 2022 asserting that all material marked as classified and held in boxes in a storage area at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence and club had been returned to the government for people with knowledge of the document. So why didn't Donald Trump back in June say, hey, I declassified everything. I waved a magic wand. I declassified everything. The written declaration was made after a visit on June 3rd to Mar-a-Lago, okay, by J.I. Bratt, B-R-A-T-T, the top counterintelligence official in the Justice Department's National Security Division. The existence of the signed declaration, which has not previously been reported. This is why I do this research, because I've been following this every day. We talked about it between Wednesday and Friday. So much stuff happened between Wednesday and Friday. I've been following this every day, all day. The existence of the signed declaration, which has not previously been reported, is a possible indication that Donald Trump or his team were not fully forthcoming with federal investigators about the material. Uh-oh. And it could help explain why a potential violation of a criminal statute related to obstruction of justice was cited by the Department of Justice as one base for seeking the warrant used to carry out the day-long search of Donald Trump's home on Monday, an extraordinary step that generated political shockwaves. This is never, the FBI has never served a search warrant at a sitting president or former president's residence. Stuff like that doesn't happen, except when you got a criminal like Donald Trump. When we come back from the break, we're gonna go to the phone lines. We'll go to Eugene on line 1. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Back from break in 4 minutes. Okay, stand by. Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast. Who still needs to register for the online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? Back from break in 2 minutes. Back for break in 1 minute. Stand by. Back from break in 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. All right. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Eugene. Hey, Eugene, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from, Eugene. We have Eugene line 1, or whoever we have on the line. Let's go to the callers. Okay, we'll get that straight. Calling number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. If we lost Eugene called back. We have a lot of information to get to in the first part of the show. 313-778-7600 is the calling number. Okay. I want to go to, we're going to go to here in just a second, Giovanni, we're going to go to clip 3 from Roland Martin Unfiltered. We're going to go to that in just a second. Unsealed Trump warrant. We're going to clip 3 in just a second here. If we go back to this article from, let me see, which one is this one? Okay. Yeah, this deals with Trump lawyer told Justice Department that classified material had been returned. Somebody's lying. Somebody's lying. Trump lawyer told Justice Department that classified material had been returned. The lawyer signed a statement in June 2022 that all documents marked as classified and held in boxes in storage at Mar-a-Lago had been given back. The search at former President Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago on Monday turned up more classified documents. Somebody's lying. This is from August 3rd. Great reporting from Maggie Haberman and Glenn Thrush for the New York Times. Okay, now there was a piece from, let me see here. We know that a subpoena was served because I have a ton of articles on this, so just bear with me here. We know a subpoena was served. Subpoena preceded search warrant and push to retrieve material from Trump. So one of the things Trump said this week, hey, if they just wanted the materials back, all they had to do was ask. Look, man, your attorneys have been, just like this article here from the NBC News. Your attorneys have been in contact with the Department of Justice before this, and they were out early in the year to pick up documents. So don't act brand new with this. Okay, don't act brand new with this. We look at this article here from NBC News. Trump's legal team was in talks with DOJ, Department of Justice, this spring over records stored at Mar-a-Lago, attorney says. So don't act like they just came knocking at your door Monday morning and you ain't know anything about this. Come on. Trump's legal team was in talks with DOJ this spring over records stored at Mar-a-Lago, attorneys say. Trump attorney Christina Bobb said the FBI removed about a dozen boxes from former president's Florida residence on Monday. Okay, this is after they took out 15 boxes earlier in the year. Now, Trump's attorney Christina Bobb said Tuesday that the FBI removed about a dozen boxes from a basement storage area, and that a search warrant left by agents indicated they were investigating possible violations of laws dealing with the handling of classified material and the Presidential Records Act of 1978, which is what I've been talking about. So even if everything was declassified, because of the Presidential Records Act in 1978, you still can't take it with you. With her account, multiple sources have now confirmed to NBC News that the unprecedented search was related to classified material. Okay, so read this one also. I don't have time. This is from August 9th. This was early in the whole fiasco. Read this one as well. But Trump's legal team, Trump act like they just came out of the clear blue. No, this has been going on for months. Run that on somebody that don't read. Okay, like Trump. Trump doesn't read. Run that on somebody that doesn't read. Okay, now I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, and we talked about this as well on Friday on Roland Martin Unfiltered, and we dealt with the documents, we dealt with the national security issue, all of this. Okay, let's go to this clip, Giovanni. Okay.
Documents over. So what's especially important is the FBI is saying, we think that he was not being forthcoming. Him and his team were not forthcoming about turning those documents over. And I think that's going to be especially important as it relates to obstruction of justice, which is one of the charges that they're looking at. This idea that we gave you numerous opportunities to give us everything you were supposed to give us, and we had reason to believe you did not. And that reason to believe was asserted by the judge in the Southern District of Florida. The judge found that there was probable cause to believe that the FBI affidavit, as it was laid out, established that there was likely still those documents there. So I think from a legal perspective, that's especially problematic, because if the facts were that they went first to the judge and just laid out probable cause and had never tried to communicate with his team to get the return of those documents, that would be a completely different issue. But here you've had at least 2 instances where you could turn those documents over and elected not to. And the fact that we found further classified documents, is proof positive that you were trying to hide something. So I think that's especially important. And I think, if he is ultimately charged, that's going to be something that a federal prosecutor stands up and says, is that, the Espionage Act is not only obviously acting as a spy, but also the refusal to return classified documents. And finally, Roland, what I want to add is especially important is, as the doctor said before me, the president has the unilateral ability to declassify documents, but there's a procedure. And I think that this really goes to show how Mr. Trump has always operated. Here are the rules. They don't apply to me, but they apply to everybody else. And if you don't follow the rules, then you find yourself in a situation where they're kickdooring your resort, as they would do any other citizen in the United States. Because once he left office, he became a private citizen. So I think the FBI and DOJ has played this well, because I think they goaded his team into making public what they had clear right to do under the law and as asserted by the judge in the Southern District.
Well, that's one of the things that I find to be quite hilarious. We're going to bring in Taylor, the Fed communication strategist, Michael Imhotep, host of the African History Network show, panelist as well. That's the thing to me that I find to be utterly hilarious, Michael, in that when you look at Trump, one, they huffed and puffed and they were like, okay, unseal it. And now they've unsealed it. And now what's even more shocking, and you notice the eerie silence. First of all, you notice how silent all these Republicans are about the shooting of the FBI office on yesterday.
Right.
But they're very silent about Trump releasing the warrant and not redacting the actual names of the FBI agents. It's amazing how these people love to attack Black Lives Matter and others, yet these folks are very much anti-law enforcement when it suits them.
Absolutely. Like I said before, number one, I said this back in 2017 when Trump became president. I said Donald Trump is the first Russian president of the United States. Now, you mark my words, you're going to find out that it's true. I said that back in 2017 because I was warning our people in 2015 and 2016 about Donald Trump. And one of my sources for the information was the information that Malcolm Nance was putting out in his book, The Plot to Destroy America, something like that. Malcolm Nance was right on point with this information. He's ahead of his time. But this right here now, also Roland, when news came out from the Washington Post yesterday that the documents that the FBI was looking for centered around nuclear weapons, okay, then you also heard silence from Republicans as well. That took things to a whole nother level because people, now it didn't say whose nuclear weapons, U.S., allies, things like this, but just wait a second. Classified documents on nuclear weapons. What the hell is this guy doing with this type of classified information? So you heard silence from Republicans again on that. So here, Donald Trump was selling wolf tickets, and he's the one that announced, oh, Mar-a-Lago was raided, things like that. That wasn't a raid. That was a search warrant served. But then he immediately started raising money off of it. He sent out Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC, got the email from the Trump organization asking for money because of the quote unquote rape. Okay, so he immediately started raising money from it. Then we find out that you could talk about possible violations of the Espionage Act. Okay, you're talking about them looking for documents dealing with nuclear weapons, things like this. This is a whole nother level. And once again, this is Merrick Garland. People thought Merrick Garland was weak because he's mild-mannered. Merrick Garland ain't weak. Merrick Garland called Trump's bluff. And this is going up in Republicans' face and Trump's face as well. Yep.
Okay, pause it right there. Okay, let's go quickly to the phone lines. Let's go to Olaf. Line 1. Hey, Olaf, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from, Olaf. Do we have Olaf on the line?
Yes, we do.
Okay, go ahead. Let's bring Olaf on. Coming up on a break. Olaf, go ahead. Welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from, Olaf. Okay, I don't hear Olaf.
Yeah, it seems like he's not.
Okay. Well, let's just put him on hold and we'll try to figure things out during the break and see if Olaf wants to come on after the break. Okay. All right, not a problem. All right, now there was. All right, we're up against the break. We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. I want to look at this article, give you this article here dealing with the nuclear weapons, nuclear documents. Okay, listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Okay, stand by. Back from break in 1 minute. We're going to switch gears, talk about Breonna Taylor. Stand by. All right. Welcome back to, you can kill the music. Kill the music. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. Okay, let's switch gears. Let's go to the new, latest developments in the Breonna Taylor case. We know that last week, on last Sunday's show, we talked about the Department of Justice has filed charges against 4 officers from the Louisville Police Department in Kentucky dealing with the killing of Breonna Taylor in March of 2020. Okay. We got the news this past week, came out Friday, August 12th. Washington Post reported ex-detective Kelly Goodlett to plead guilty in Breonna Taylor case, her lawyers say. Ex-detective Kelly Goodlett to plead guilty in Breonna Taylor case, her lawyers say. Kelly Goodlett is accused of helping falsify a search warrant and filing a false report to cover it up. Let's dig deeper into this. So former Louisville Police Department Detective Kelly Goodlett, who's a white woman, white female, intends to plead guilty this month to federal charges in connection to the fatal police shooting of Breonna Taylor, and what would be the first conviction in a case that sparked months of racial justice protests in that city of Louisville, Kentucky, and across the country. Now, remember, the spineless Black Attorney General, who's a protege of Senator Mitch McConnell, Daniel Cameron. Remember, he was too spineless to file charges against these officers. He filed charges against one officer, and that dealt with wanton endangerment. That dealt with the officer recklessly firing into a neighbor's apartment. Okay, it had nothing to do with Breonna Taylor being killed. All right, so this is what you're dealing with. So luckily, we got the Department of Justice is on the case, and Assistant Attorney General of the Civil Rights Department, Kristen Clark, okay, is on the case. All right, let's go back to this article here. Okay, let's go back to this article. Kelly Goodlett and her attorney, Brandon Marshall, along with Mike Songer, an attorney representing the Department of Justice, confirmed her plea agreement during an online court hearing Friday. This was Friday, August 12th, before Magistrate Judge Regina S. Edwards in the U.S. District Court of the Western District of Kentucky. Now, Edwards, Magistrate Judge Regina Edwards, in-person hearing August 22nd, 2022, to entertain that plea and released Goodlett on a $10,000 bond, okay, ordering her to relinquish her passport and remove all firearms from her home, We're going to clip number 4 in just a second, Giovanni, from Roland Martin Unfiltered. Now, Marshall, her attorney, Kelly Goodlett's attorney, Brandon Marshall, responded that Kelly Goodlett's ex-officer, Kelly Goodlett's husband, is also a police officer. He and Edwards agreed, and the judge agreed on an arrangement in which Kelly Goodlett's husband, who is a current police officer, will keep his service weapons in a safe, but reset the combination to one that ex-police officer Kelly Goodlett does not know. Now, Kelly Goodlett's ex-Louisville Police Department officer, Kelly Goodlett, is accused of helping falsify a search warrant and filing a false report to cover it up which could carry a maximum of 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. Okay, so her charges are the least severe of the 4 officers. Now, Kelly Goodlet's testimony could be crucial as federal prosecutors pursue charges against 3 others: Sergeant Kyle Meany, former Detective Joshua James, and former Detective Brett Hankinson. They are charged with more serious civil rights offenses and could face life sentences if convicted. Now, we talked about this on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, August 12th. Let's go to this clip, Giovanni.
All right, folks. One of the cops at the Department of Justice charged with the death of Breonna Taylor is going to be pleading guilty. Former Louisville Metro Police detective. She is, first of all, Kelly Goodlet. Her attorney said his client will appear before U.S. District Judge David Hall on August 22nd to enter her plea. Goodlet had to surrender her passport and was ordered to cease contact with co-defendants, Sergeant Kyle Meany and former detectives Joshua James and Brett Hankinson. With Goodlet's guilty plea, she's expected to testify against her colleague. This will be the first criminal conviction related to Breonna Taylor's death. This, of course, comes on the heel of the Department of Justice again announcing these charges where they hit them, first of all, conspiring, if you will. There was with conspiracy, if you remember. Talk about how they were meeting in parking lots trying to plan their stories as well. This right here, finally, some form of justice for Breonna Taylor, Kelly, and it says a whole lot that already one of these cops, remember, the ones who get the first plea in, they're the ones who get the most leniency. And so by her pleading guilty, she's going to be rolling on those other 3.
But it's also kind of bittersweet in the sense that we are waiting, 2 years for some semblance of justice for Breonna Taylor. When we had a Black attorney, state's attorney, who would rather prosecute someone for the destruction of a wall than the murder of a human being. I will never forget that. I will never forgive that. So seeing this semblance of justice is comforting, but we still got a long way to go.
Michael.
All right, sorry about that. Yeah, Roland, this is good news right here. I saw the article from the Washington Post. This is good news. Looks like her testimony is going to be crucial when it comes to getting convictions on the other officers. She's looking at up to 5 years in prison and up to a $250,000 fine. Her charges are probably the least serious. But this is the start. All of these officers should be found guilty. And this, once again, I can't stress this enough. This is the result of voting. If we didn't vote Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris in the office, you wouldn't have Mayor Garland, Department of Justice. You wouldn't have these charges filed. The Trump Department of Justice would not have done this.
All right. So I have just received my new.
Okay, pause right.
Matt, again, as you know, on the criminal side, whoever's in first, they're the ones who are going to get the best deal. And so it's abundantly clear she realized, man, we screwed up. Let me try to get this sucker out of the way and try to throw myself on the mercy of the court to get as least time in prison as possible.
Oh, she is absolutely snitching. There's no question. She's like a canary. And, if I were her lawyer, I might be counseling her to do that in this case, especially because DOJ brought very astute charges. So instead of charging her with anything related to like excessive force or anything like that, they charged her with a conspiracy to falsify the warrants. And the reason that's really important is because people don't know there's actually a Supreme Court case called Franks v. Delaware, and this happens all the time. Criminal defendants, people who are accused, try to attack warrants because often police officers are either dishonest or mischaracterize things in a warrant. So to see it play out on such a high level is important, and for DOJ to have the wherewithal to charge her with that as opposed to something more attenuated is very good, because I think obviously they backed her into a corner where she realized she was cooked. So she's now about to cook the others and sing like a bird, and we'll see how those play out. But that's definitely what's happening here. She's about to snitch, no question.
And man, I think what's also interesting about this, remember when Eric Holder was Attorney General, he talked about the high bar they had to charge folks with violating civil rights. These officers were not charged with violating the civil rights of Breonna Taylor. The Department of Justice, they were real patient, and they waited. They waited, and they spent their time talking to so many people, and these officers screwed themselves by meeting privately, and DOJ found out, and that's what they hit them with.
Absolutely. And the scary thing, Roland, is how often this happens in all the cases that don't reach the light of day, right? All the cases that are not at this level, the national level, and they're just as important, but we don't hear them happening as often. So I'm glad that DOJ was methodical and took their time. And look, the reality is when the feds prosecute somebody, it's way different than when the state does. The feds have like a 98% conviction rate because they have all the resources to really work out a case, and they have, you know, the best expertise. So for them to not only charge her as astutely as they did here, but also to be methodical and, you know, long thinking in how they set up their case, I think is good. And I think that's going to ultimately yield the appropriate results, because especially at this level, if you had a spate of not guilties, I mean, it would just kind of upset the entire trust in the system, which people already shouldn't have. The system we know is very flawed. Should have it to a degree. Let me say that instead. But I think the way to approach this was very astute here, and I'm glad to see that they took the tack that they did.
Hey, pause it right there. Pause it right there, Giovanni. Pause it right there. Okay, we're going to pick it up there on the other side of the break, because Roland comes back to me on the panel, and we talk about the power of voting, why it's important to vote, because you would not have a Merrick Garland Department of Justice filing these charges if 16.9 million African Americans did not vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, because the Trump Department of Justice would not file charges. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by, everybody. Back from break in 4 minutes. All right, give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like if you like this broadcast. You can support the African History Network, $ TheAHNShow through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/TheAHNShow. Also, all of my DVD lectures and digital downloads are available at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Back from break in 3 minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 3 minutes. Back from break in 2 minutes. Back from break in 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. Okay, so right before the break, we were talking about updates in the Breonna Taylor case. And, last Sunday, we dealt with the fact that the Department of Justice is filing charges against the 4 officers in the killing of Breonna Taylor. We talked about this on Roland Martin Unfiltered when I was on Friday. Let's go back to this clip from Roland Martin Unfiltered, please.
And I can't stress it enough, Kelly, the work that Kristen Clark is doing as head of the Civil Rights Division under this Department of Justice. And Attorney Ben Crump said this, and in fact, Carol, let me know if they ever sent us that doggone video from NABJ. I moderated a panel with him in Las Vegas at our convention last week, and he did held a news conference about this particular case. And I specifically asked him about what work that she has done, and what he said was, and hopefully we can find the video. He said that this is probably, in his estimation, the most active civil rights division since the days of Robert Kennedy during the civil rights movement.
And, shout out to Black Girl Magic on this one, right? Not to belittle it or cheapen it by any means, but I am fortunate enough to know the 2% of Black women attorneys, a lot of them, right? And they are just incredible. And Attorney Clark is no different. I don't know her personally, but I'm familiar with her work. She's incredibly thorough. She's incredibly just smart and strategic. And I don't doubt anything that she has done in her division and in her work. This is expected of her because she has basically made the bar as far as excellence is concerned in this regard. So I'm not surprised. But like I said, even though the DOJ is a completely different division, a completely different jurisdiction rather, it's just bittersweet to know that it took this long for a semblance of justice to be served. But I am more than happy that Attorney Clark is the one to be on the path to administer that justice on behalf of
you made a point earlier, Michael, of voting matters. And again, I keep saying this. I don't know what the hell this White House is doing. Again, why they're not doing more to trumpet what's happening with the Civil Rights Division. But for all the people who keep yelling, "Oh, Biden is doing nothing," the reality is, if anyone says they do nothing for Black folks, when I see these officers, when I look at the Ahmaud Arbery case, when I look at these corrections officers and wardens and others who have been tried, convicted, sent to prison, other police officers, folks charged with hate crimes, you are seeing results as a result of Biden-Harris winning, Garland being AG, Bonita Gupta being the number 2 to the Department of Justice, and Kristen Clark being head of the Civil Rights Division. This is this is one of the things that you vote for. Yes. Do we still want to see public policy? Yes. Do we still want to see Georgia Justice Act? Yes. Do we still want to see For the People Act, John Lewis Act? Yes. But this is also what you vote for.
Absolutely, and let's keep in mind that Senator Tim Scott didn't vote for Kristen Clark when she came up for the Senate confirmation. Susan Collins voted for Kristen Clark, but the Black Republican didn't vote for her. Okay, so this goes back, Roland, to why the Department of Justice was created in 1870 during Reconstruction. They were created largely to protect the new rights of African Americans and go after those domestic terrorists that were attacking African American elected officials and Republican elected officials, things like this. This goes back to why the Department of Justice was created. So, the Biden-Harris administration, when it comes to messaging, they're horrible. When it comes to accomplishments, they have a lot of accomplishments, and the Inflation Act, Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 just passed the House of Representatives. That's another win. This past 6 weeks, Biden has been on a roll, and they're peaking at the right time, going into the November 22 midterm elections. but they have to message what their wins are. And once again, I encourage people to read the document. The Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunity for Black people and communities across the country. That's at whitehouse.gov. It's a 19-page document. It breaks down how the Biden-Harris administration policies are helping the African-American community. And this is only through February 28th of 2022. Mm-hmm. So the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill is not in this. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is not in this. Many other wins that they have is not in this. So they have a problem with messaging, but also many of our people have to do better reading as well.
All right, pause it right there, Giovanni. All right. Absolutely. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Now, let's look at this because we're almost out of time. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching because we're going to go past the 2 hours. I got a couple more things to cover with you. So follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, because we're going to keep broadcasting. Read this document here. This is what I've been talking about. I'm the only person that I know of who has talked about this document. Nobody else. I'm on different shows. No, I haven't heard anybody else talk about it. I watch MSNBC, haven't heard Joanne Reed, Tiffany Cross, Charles Blow, haven't heard. I don't get paid to do none of this sugar honey iced tea. And I haven't heard one person talk about this document that's at whitehouse.gov. This was updated February 28, 2022. This only deals with about the first year of the Biden-Harris administration, and it's 19 pages. And it breaks down how the policies of the Biden-Harris administration are benefiting the African-American community. When I was on Reverend Al Sharpton's show for 2 hours 2 weeks ago, his radio show, I mentioned this. The Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunity for Black people and communities across the country. Go through and read this. So when you come across Simple Simon-ass people who have absolutely no clue what they're talking about and say these policies don't benefit us, the first question I ask them is, what type of research did you do to come to that conclusion? Did you do a 5-minute Google search? Because if you had Googled how have the policies of the Biden-Harris administration helped the African-American community, you know the first thing that comes up? This document I just showed you at whitehouse.gov. So I don't know where a lot of these people are, or coming from, but anyway, it is what it is. This article here, I mentioned this on Faraji Muhammad's show and also briefly on Roland Martin, and we've talked about it here. We deal with this in my online class that I teach on Sundays, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. This is from the Smithsonian Institute, SmithsonianMag.com, okay? The magazine of the Smithsonian Institute, created 150 years ago. The Justice Department's first mission was to protect Black rights. This was during Reconstruction, 1870. In the wake of the Civil War, the government's new force sought to enshrine equality under the law. Now, this is from July 1st, 2020. Yes, the Office of the Attorney General was created in 1789, but the Department of Justice wasn't created till 1870. The first Attorney General under the Justice was Amos T. Ackerman, okay? Read this article as well. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching. We're going to keep going for a couple more minutes. We'll talk a little bit about R. Kelly, and then we'll talk about my online class coming up that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. Visit our website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Right now, it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace. All right, let me kill that music. All right, because that'll cause YouTube to take the flaggers. All right, I got a new board op, so I got to break them in because I got a new board op. Jalen's not on for the next few weeks. Okay, let's keep going here. Now, okay, so we got that, and then so read this article here dealing with the Department of Justice. Okay, read this article here dealing with the Department of Justice. And once again, name of this article, created 150 years ago, the Justice Department's first mission was to protect Black rights. All right. Now, visit our website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. I'm going to do a brief review of some of the things that we talked about this weekend in the online classes. I teach one on Saturdays and one on Sundays. Visit our new website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the online history classes that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. We do the classes live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You don't have to be present in class. You can watch the class anytime. Okay. A year from now, 2 years from now, you can go watch the entire course. Saturdays, normally 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Because of my schedule and I'm at some events, sometimes on the weekend, we have to do the classes during the week. But even if you miss the class, it's fine. I don't take attendance. You can go watch it anytime, okay? This class is on sale $60, regularly $130. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. You can use your debit card or credit card to process the payment. Even though it's on PayPal's platform, you can use debit card or credit card or PayPal. It doesn't matter. If you want to do Cash App, email me through the website. We could do Cash App also. On Sundays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we had a great class today. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. So we start out in 1803 with the Louisiana Purchase, and we deal with history chronologically. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips. We deal with history chronologically leading up to the Civil War. Then we go analyze the Civil War, 1861, 1865. Reconstruction Era, 1865, 1877, Jim Crow Era, Great Migration, 1915, 1970, World War I, World War II, Civil Rights Movement, Black Power Movement, to understand what happened to us after slavery ended, the laws and policies put in place to suppress African Americans, so we understand how we got to where we are today, so we know where we need to go from here, okay? And politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, tracing, and enforcement. All those people who are for economic empowerment, so am I. My degrees in business administration. I taught entrepreneurship for 7 years. I know better than most people that is laws and policies that shape your economy and impact your business environment that your business operates within. So anybody trying to convince you we don't need to vote, we just need to do economic empowerment and do like the Asians. Asians vote also. Stop selling that nonsense to our people. That's BS. That's false. That 41% of black-owned businesses died. 41% of black-owned businesses shut down by April of 2020 because of COVID-19. Because President Trump mishandled the COVID-19 crisis. Because one, he didn't read his daily briefings, his presidential daily briefings. There was information in the presidential daily briefings going back to November of 2019 about COVID-19. Once again, this dumbass don't read. So why you got classified documents at Mar-a-Lago? He didn't read his daily briefings. Those were classified. He didn't read that. So why you have boxes of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago? Makes no sense whatsoever unless you got it for somebody else, maybe a foreign power. All right, so let's look very briefly here at the, we got the information at our website. You can support us through Cash App and PayPal. That helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc., pay for all these services that I use. $ TheAHNShow through Cash App is our Cash App tag. You can click right here. PayPal, paypal.me/TheAHNShow. This is our only Cash App account. There are fake African History Network Cash App accounts out there, even more than what I'm showing here. I'm still trying to get those shut down. I opened up an investigation 2.5 months ago with Cash App. They're slower than Heinz ketchup. When you go to our Cash App account, $TheAHNShow, SHOW, and you type in the full Cash App tag, it'll say Michael and show my picture there. These other ones, all these other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. Okay, so let's look very briefly here at the online class I teach on Saturdays, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Here's some of the things that we talked about in Saturday's class. Okay, and let me to this here just a second. All right. Okay, let's switch over to the PowerPoint presentation, and we can close. Why is this moving slowly? We can close some of this other stuff out. Stand by. Okay, so we talked about some of the history of the Moors and the Moors going into Europe. And I referenced Runoko Rashidi's book. We referenced the books Black Star, The African Presence in Early Europe, And then also Golden Age of the Moor, edited by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. Okay. There's a good article from National Geographic that we use in the class because we use books, video clips. There's over 50 articles that I reference in the class. It's probably about 200 slides. Who were the Moors? The Moors' ancestors were known as the Garamantes. They were a Black African people living throughout North Africa. Hannibal Barca, who we talked about a couple weeks ago, Hannibal Barca, and we dealt with the Punic Wars, and we dealt with the Battle of Cannae, 216 BC. We dealt with in 219 BC, Hannibal crossing the Alps with the elephants to stomp the Russian army. We dealt with 216 BC, the Battle of Cannae, where Hannibal was outnumbered by the Roman army, and he defeats about they kill about 70,000 Roman soldiers in one day. And then we talk about the Battle of Zama, 202 BC, where Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus defeats Hannibal Barca at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, right? We know that Carthage is going to be destroyed in about 143 BC or so. Carthage is going to be destroyed. Now, the Moors' ancestors were the Garamantes. They were a Black African people living throughout North Africa. Hannibal Barca was Garamanti. The Carthaginians are descendants of the Phoenicians, right? And Carthage is in the area where you have Tunisia today in North Africa, as well as St. Augustine was Garamanti also. Now, the Moors, according to George G.M. James in his book Stolen Legacy, and I had the book here on one of these stacks of books, George G.M. James in Stolen Legacy, he said that the Moors were the custodians of the ancient Egyptian mystery system. These teachings are going to bring Europe out of the Dark Ages. These teachings are going to bring Europe out of the Dark Ages. It's going to be to the detriment of African people, because everything that we taught Europeans came back to kick us in the behind. Everything that we taught them, the science, the mathematics, the nautical instruments, the algebra, the alchemy, or what we call chemistry, the periodic tables, the fire stick that's introduced, which is a long stick that fired one projectile. In Europe, they're going to produce first firearm in mid-14th century AD, somewhere 1346, 1356. But that's based upon the technology that the Moors take into Europe. Okay. Now, the word Moor is derived from the Greek word maros, M-A-U-R-O-S, which literally means black or very dark color, or a very dark color. Now, the Romans adopt this word and call them Mari, M-A-U-R-I, Mari. The Mari were a Northwest African people who were very dark-skinned. The Romans will refer to the region of Northwest Africa as Mauritania, M-A-U-R-I-T-A-N-I-A, Mauritania, Mari. Mauritania is Latin and means the land of the black-skinned people. You'll also hear the Roman term Marish. Marish. Now, Romans later adopt the word as a reference for the black-skinned inhabitants they encountered in Africa. And if you read pages 527 and 187, The Golden Age of the Moor, edited by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, they break this down in the book. Also, there is an excellent essay. So Runoko Rashidi has an essay in this book. So this is a book we reference in the class. So you don't have to buy any of these books to follow along in the class. And then also we use Runoko's book, Black Star, the African Presence in Early Europe. As well, which deals with the history of the Moors in Europe also. We know Runoko Rashidi passed away August 2nd, 2021. Runoko was a friend of mine. We had him here. I think I've interviewed him about 6 years over the past 12 years, because my first interview with Runoko was in 2010. He was the first year that I launched the African History Network show. So he was one of my first interviews. Also, Dr. Jose Pimenta Bay, I think he was my third interview. Dr. Leonard Jeffries was my first interview, but I interviewed Dr. Jose Pimenta Bay 10 also, and he has an essay, a fantastic essay on the history of the Moors in the book Golden Age of the Moor. Okay, now, so we talk about, of course, the Moors going in 711 AD from Morocco into the Iberian Peninsula known as Spain and Portugal, and they're going to fight against the Vandals and the Visigoths, and where they settle in southern Spain, they call Al-Andalus, which basically means to walk in the spiritual path or walk in the spiritual light, Al-Andalus. Let's see here. Variations of the word Moor. Moreno is Spanish, which means dark, dark complexioned, now meaning brunette or dark hair. Mora is Spanish. Originally, it referred to a Moorish woman, now means blackberry, the fruit, not the discontinued smartphone, but the fruit blackberry. They talk about this on page 7 of Golden Age of the Moor. Mora is Italian, which means blackberry. Morassad is French, which means dark skinned or blackamoor. And Morelan is French, which means black grape. So you see the variations of the word Moor in different languages, and we see the impact of the Moors in these different languages as well. Okay. Now there's we talk about General Tariq ibn Ziyad as well, 711 AD, and he goes into the Iberian Peninsula, and where they land, that rock promontory, they call it Jebel Tariq, or Tariq's Mountain, which is Arabic, and is translated as Gibraltar, or what you call the Rock of Gibraltar. Okay, so the Rock of Gibraltar is named after an African man, General Tariq ibn Ziyad, right, who leads the Moors into the Iberian Peninsula in 711 AD. Now, if we look at this here, according to the Oxford Dictionary, the Moors, as early as the Middle Ages and as late as the 17th century, were commonly supposed to be black or very swarthy, and hence the word is often used for negro or negro. Early in the 8th century AD, after a grim and extended resistance to the Arab invasions of North Africa, the Moors joined the triumphant surge of Islam. Following this, they crossed over from Morocco over to the Iberian Peninsula, where their swift victories and remarkable feats soon became the substance of legends. In July of 710 AD, Tarif, with 400 foot soldiers and 100 horses, all Berbers, successfully carried out a mission in southern Iberia. Tarif, an important port city in southern Spain, is named after him. Okay, then in 711 AD, so that's the reconnaissance mission to get the lay of the land in 710 AD, because you had emissaries, you had the Sephardim, who were Jews who converted to Christianity. They're there in Spain being persecuted by the Vandals and the Visigoths. They send emissaries into Morocco and ask the Moors to come in to rescue them. And the Moors go and fight against these barbarians, the Vandals and the Visigoths, and defeat them. Okay, and they take control of portions of what today we call Spain. All right, this is how the Moors get in. This is why they end up basically in Spain in the first place. That they should have just, I wouldn't answer the telephone if you understand what happened after all that. I wouldn't, but yeah, it is what it is. But anyway. I can understand wanting to help people, but I'll be so we talked about Saint Maurice, who became a patron saint of Germany. We broke down what are patron saints and explained the history behind patron saints. And the patron saints are going to take the place of the Neteru. In Christianity, the patron saints are going to take the place of the Neteru. Okay, and patron saints are saints that watch over groups of people, watch over different cities that people pray to, etc. But Saint Maurice, who was a Moor and a Christian, okay, and Renoko Rashidi has a piece dealing with, as an article for AtlantaBlackStar.com, dealing with the Black Saint Maurice, Knight of the Holy Lance. Saint Maurice refuses to persecute some Christians, okay. And he's Christian himself, and he and his army allow him to get killed. All right. So he becomes a patron saint to Germany. There's a good piece on Tariq ibn Ziyad from Britannica.com, Encyclopedia Britannica. And I use Britannica. One, they have good information. Two, I have a monthly subscription to Britannica. I pay them each month, and I'm trying to get my money's worth out of these subscriptions. I pay National Geographic, was it $24.99 a month? I just signed up for Wall Street Journal. That's $8 a month. I just signed up. I got the Los Angeles Times for $1 for 6 months. because I got a better deal than I had with them like 6 months ago. Time Magazine, they want to charge me $19 a month, but I just signed up again with Time Magazine. I think I use a different email address, so I just signed up with Time Magazine. I get, what am I paying them, $1 for the first month or something crazy like that. So what I try to do is try to renegotiate the terms of the agreement after the initial subscription fee. You know, they sign you up for $1 for a month, and then it goes to $25 after that or something like that. So I try to like renegotiate, okay? Try to control expenses. So Tariq Ibn Ziyad, Britannica.com has some good information on this. Musa ibn Nusayr, the Arab conqueror of Morocco, left his general Tariq Ibn Ziyad to govern Tangier in his place. Spain at this time was under Visigothic rule. So see, this ties into the history, right, of these Vandals. Now, the Vandals and the Visigoths crushed the western portion of the Roman Empire in 476 AD and cast Europe into what's known as the Dark Ages. The Vandals and the Visigoths, they crushed the western portion of the Roman Empire, 476 AD. All right. And you're going to have this period of time of famine, strife, civil war, not a lot of inventions taking place during the Dark Ages. And it's going to go from 5th century AD to about the 1300s. Okay, about the 1300s, the Dark Ages. So Musa ibn Nasser, the Arab conqueror of Morocco, left his general Tariq to govern Tangier in his place. Spain at this time was under Visigothic rule, but was rent by civil war. Okay, they were dealing with a lot of civil war in Spain at this time. Now, the dispossessed sons of the recently deceased Visigothic king of Spain, Witiza, appealed to the Muslims for help in the civil war. Okay, the dispossessed sons of the Visigothic king of Spain, Witiza, appealed to the Muslims for help in the civil war, and they quickly responded to this request in order to conquer Spain for themselves. But also, the Sephardim, the Sephardic Jews in Spain, they sent emissaries into Morocco to ask for help from the Moors because they're being persecuted by the Vandals and the Visigoths. In May 711 AD, Tariq ibn Ziyad landed on Gibraltar, Jebel Tariq, Tariq's mountain, with an army of 7,000 men. Now, depending upon the source, the number of men he arrived with may vary, but he showed up with thousands of men, mostly Berbers, Syrians, and Yemenis. Gibraltar henceforth became known as Jebel Tariq, Mount Tariq, for which the anglicized form of the name is adapted, Gibraltar. Okay. Tariq soon advanced to the Spanish mainland itself, gaining valuable support from Spanish Jews who had been persecuted by the Visigoths and from Christian supporters of Witiza's sons, okay, the Visigothic king. In July 711 AD, Tariq ibn Ziyad defeated the forces of the Visigothic usurper king Roderick at an undetermined location. He then immediately marched upon Toledo, the capital of Spain, and occupied that city against little resistance. He also conquered Cordoba. Musa ibn Nasser himself arrived in Spain with a force of more than 18,000 in 712 AD, Common Era, and together the two generals occupied more than 2/3 of the Iberian Peninsula, today called Spain and Portugal, in the next few years. In 714 Common Era, Musa and Tariq ibn Ziyad were summoned by the Caliph back to Damascus, where they were both accused of misappropriation of funds and died in obscurity. So we take you through our history. We look at this history chronologically. We deal with why there are African Moors heads on the national flags of Corsica and Sardinia. And on right around page 90 of Runoko Rashidi's book, he shows this, and he deals with we also deal with the Black Madonna and Child as well, because that ties into Asar Arset and Heru, And even before the Moors go into Europe, the Europeans have the statues of the Black Madonna and Child, which goes back to Asar, Aset, and Heru, who the Greeks called Osiris, Isis, and Horus, the first Holy Trinity. Now, this may go outside the circumference of some people's awareness. Just because you never heard it before, disagree with it, or don't like it, does not mean it's not true. Just means you have to do some research to understand what it is that I'm talking about, okay? And in various ways, and Sister Nubia Wartford, who's a brilliant archaeologist here in Detroit, or cultural, she calls herself a cultural anthropologist. She's a cultural anthropologist. She goes to the Sudan to do archaeological digs, right? She can explain this portion of it better than I can. But Sister Nubia, and we've had her here on the African History Network show for a number of times throughout the years, she does presentations dealing with how the iconography in the Christian church has preserved African culture and the African spirituality coming from ancient Kemet. A lot of this is preserved in Christianity. It's just not talked about a lot. It's not highlighted. A lot of people see these things but don't know what they're looking at, right? So if we look at right here on page 90 and 91 of Black Star, the African Presence in Early Europe by Runoko Rashidi. He took pictures. You know, Runoko traveled around the world, about 125, 130 countries and islands. And he shows you statues and paintings of the Black Madonna Child throughout Europe. Switzerland, we see it in Switzerland. We see it in Poland, Saskatchewan, Poland, right here. This is Switzerland here, statue. We see the painting here in Poland. The Black Virgin of Madrid, Spain. This statue here. Black Virgin and Child statue in St. John's Church, Luxembourg City, Luxembourg. Okay. We see the national flag of Sardinia, which is an Italian island with the 4 African Moors heads on it. We see the coat of arms of Pope Benedict XVI with the head of a Moorish king, because a lot of Europeans have a lot of these, because the Moors intermix into the European population, into the bloodstream. The African male Moors were having sex with white women. Okay, it is what it is. Dr. John Henrik Clarke said, Black men are natural born sweet talkers wherever we go. They were intermixing into the European population, changing the complexion to various extents of Europeans throughout where they go, especially in Spain and Portugal, because Spain and Portugal is right above, because it's right above Morocco. They got the brunt of it. Okay, Spain and Portugal got the brunt of it. It happened in England also, but to a lesser extent in England, because England was further away from Morocco. Okay. But if we look at this here, and I'm not sure why that's flashing, but if we look at this here, we go back, let's go to the map of Al-Andalus right here. So we look at it geographically, there's just a very short distance between Morocco and Spain. So Spain and Portugal get the brunt of it. Also, Portugal is the first one involved in the transatlantic slave trade, basically 1441 Common Era AD, with Anton Gonzalez going into Mauritania, which is a short distance from Portugal. Okay. And then the Spanish are right behind. They're the second ones involved in the transatlantic slave trade. The Spanish are right behind the Portuguese. Okay, so we take you throughout history. We deal with this history chronologically. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips. We deal with thousands of years of history, what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. We deal with the African presence in the Americas going back at least 51,700 years ago. We reference work from Dr. David Imhotep. That's one of the sources, not the only one. Page 14 of his book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence, and I have that book behind me. He deals with the discovery by Dr. Albert Goodyear in Allendale County, South Carolina, 2004. 13 different types of evidence thoroughly documenting an African presence in the land we call the United States of America. going back at least 51,700 years ago. They found artifacts, architecture, campsites, carvings, footprints in lava, genetic M174D haploid groups dealing with DNA and genetics, skull, skeleton, structures, and tools. They found 13 different types of evidence, thoroughly documenting an African presence in this country going back at least 51,700 years ago. And one of the things we do is we look at a number of different archaeological discoveries that have happened in like the last 10 or 12 years that are causing the archaeologists, scientists, paleontologists to totally rethink everything. And when these discoveries come out, it causes them to have to push the timelines back. They talk about how they have to rethink all of this, push the timelines back, especially the discovery that came out in June 2017 in Morocco when they found remains of Homo sapiens dating back 300,000 to 350,000 years ago. And that pushed the timeline back because before that, the oldest fossils of Homo sapiens, modern man, were found in Ethiopia that dated back 195,000 years ago. The discovery that came out in June 2017 in Morocco just blew all of this out of the water. Okay, this article right here is from 2004, and this is from ScienceDaily.com. This is about Dr. Albert Goodyear's discovery. Here's a picture of Dr. Albert Goodyear. He's an archaeologist at the University of South Carolina. You can still read this article. It's still up. New evidence puts man in North America at least 50,000 years ago. November 18th, 2008 from ScienceDaily.com, which is a scientific website. They have different scientific discoveries there, but the other news sources that reported on this finding as well. Radiocarbon tests of carbonized plant remains where artifacts were unearthed last May along the Savannah River in Allendale County by University of South Carolina archaeologist Dr. Albert Goodyear indicate that the sediments containing these artifacts were at least 50,000 years old, meaning that humans inhabited North America before the last ice age, okay? So who were these humans? These were the Khoisan, who have the oldest DNA on the planet. Science magazine has an article from around October 2012 that talks about the Khoisan, who are the ancestors of the Ainu and the Twa. They went all around the world, and they were also here in the land we call the United States of America, going back at least 51,700 years ago. In October 2012, genetic study published in Science magazine found that the Khoisan in Southern Africa are the oldest ethnic group of modern humans, with their ancestral line originating about 100,000 years ago. The Khoisan, formerly called by the derogatory term Bushmen, are genetically unique, and no other currently known population had separated so easily from our common modern human ancestor, according to the report. Now, here's a picture of a couple of Khoisan sisters, okay, a couple of Khoisan women that are short-statured Africans. Now, the Khoisan live mainly in southern Africa in territories spanning Botswana, Namibia, Angola, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. They are largely divided into two groups, hunters and gatherers, called the Sans people, S-A-N-S, and keepers of the livestock, called the Khoikhoi people. The Khoisan languages include the distinctive click sounds that are not found in the languages of their neighbors. And the click language was the original language. Okay, the click language was the original language. And in the movie Black Panther, the language spoken in the film Black Panther is isiXhosa, okay, because we deal with the film Black Panther, because African culture is all throughout and history is all throughout the film Black Panther. Okay, I did 3 months of research on the film Black Panther as well as the comic book to be able to do my lectures on that, on the film. The Panther deity that we see in Black Panther, Bastet, or Bast, I should say Bast, the Panther deity, that comes straight out of ancient Kemet. That comes from the Neter Bastet, okay, that was worshipped as early as Second Dynasty around 2890 BCE. So Bast or Bastet was an ancient Kemetic or Egyptian goddess or Neter worshipped in the form of a lioness and then later a cat. She was the goddess of warfare in Lower Kemet, Lower Egypt. Okay, so Bast that you see, a lot of that stuff that you see in the film is not made up. There were 11 different African cultures that we saw represented in the film Black Panther. Okay. Ruth Carter, who was the costume designer, she spent 6 months researching African cultures. So when we look at the Dora Milaje, right? The Dora Milaje, who were the African female warriors. I think I have a slide here on the Dora Milaje. The African female warriors that we see depicted in the film Black Panther, they were influenced from the where their costume comes from the Maasai of Kenya and Tanzania. Okay, the real life inspiration for the Dora Milaje are the African female warriors called the Ohozi or the Mino, okay, of Dahomey, modern day Benin. And this is where these African female warriors, this was the real life inspiration for the Dora Milaje. The Dora Milaje were introduced, I think it was around 1998 in the Black Panther comic books. They were introduced. Dora Milaje means adored ones. Okay, so in my presentation on Black Panther, and we'll pull this slide up here. I'll show you this one here because we deal with the film Black Panther in the class because there's a lot of culture, African culture, history related in the film. Where are we? Right here. The Dora Milaje of Wakanda come from Dahomey, Republic of Benin. Right here. Okay. So where we go right here. So they come from the Ohozi or the Mino. Now, these are the African female warriors that are depicted in the new movie coming out September 16th, 2022, by starring Viola Davis, called The Woman King. The Woman King. And it deals with these African female warriors who are fighting against the French colonizers. It deals with the Franco-Dahomean Wars, okay? Fighting against the French colonizers in late 1800s, okay? Now, some people say, oh, well, these African female warriors, they were used to capture other Africans and enslave them, things like this. That's true. African history is not perfect, just like European history is not perfect. Europeans were enslaving each other for hundreds of years. Neither one was right, but it happened. But also, these African female warriors fought against the French colonizers as well. Okay, African history, just like European history, is not perfect. Europeans were killing each other for hundreds of years, even before they became nations, when they were kingdoms. And you had the Vandals, the Visigoths, the Lombards, the Jutes, the Anglos, the Saxons, the Picts, the Alans, these Germanic people collectively called barbarians who were fighting and killing each other. Okay, they're fighting and killing each other, just like the Vandals and the Visigoths crushed the western portion of the Roman Empire and cast Europe into the Dark Ages. Okay, then these kingdoms are going to become nations, and they're going to keep fighting one another. And then they become Spain and Portugal and the Netherlands and England, Great Britain, things like this, France, Germany, and then they're fighting each other and killing each other over the transatlantic slave trade, control of the transatlantic slave trade, over Africa, over the new lands that are being conquered, even going back to Christopher Columbus and his 4 voyages. And we see that these different areas that Columbus is conquering fall into the hands of other people. So the French get control of the western third of the island of Hispaniola and call it Saint Dominique, which becomes Haiti, where the Haitian Revolution is. Okay, we're going to see that the British take control of Jamaica because Columbus conquers Jamaica in 1494. We see the Treaty of Tordesillas in about the 15th century, the Treaty of Tordesillas, and the Pope tells Spain and Portugal to stop fighting amongst yourselves and go out and conquer these non-Christian people. And the Pope divides the non-Christian world among Spain and Portugal and sends them out to conquer Spain and Portugal. Because these European nations who were formed originally hundreds of years prior by barbarians were fighting and killing each other. Then when they become nations, they continue to fight and kill each other. And then they have world wars, continue to fight and kill each other. Okay. So Germany, okay, and France and Great Britain and all this. So they go from barbarians to kingdoms to nation states to World War I, World War II. Europeans been fighting and killing each other over 1,000 years. And you have wars between different African nations and things like that also. Nobody's history is perfect. Okay. So we deal with all this history. And the second class that I teach, the one I teach on Sundays, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. That class basically picks up where the first one, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, leaves off. So we pick up the second class, we pick up in 1803 with the Louisiana Purchase and the Haitian Revolution. And then so when you talk about the Haitian Revolution, so then you got to talk about, go back to Christopher Columbus and his 4 voyages, because Columbus conquers Haiti. So you see how all this is connected, and Columbus set sail on his first of 4 voyages, August 3rd, 1492, the day after the Sephardim, the Sephardic Jews, are expelled out of Spain. And later in the same year that the Moors lose control of the last stronghold, Grenada, January 2nd, 1492. All this history is connected. So you can't talk about the transatlantic slave trade without talking about Christopher Columbus. I know we don't want to talk about Columbus. You have to talk about Columbus. A lot of this has to do with Columbus and these island nations where Columbus goes and conquers and decimates, rapes and pillages. They've never recovered from what happened. Haiti is still dealing with what happened over 500 years ago. Okay, Cuba, and then you have the Spanish-American War of 1898, and Cuba's fighting against Spain for their independence because Spain conquered Cuba. It was Columbus that conquered Spain in 1492. These island nations have never recovered from what these Europeans did to them. And contrary to popular belief, Columbus never comes to the land that we call the United States of America, this contiguous landmass. Contiguous meaning connected. He never, Alaska and Hawaii are not part of the contiguous United States. Okay. So his first voyage, August 3rd, 1492, he set sail on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. He lands in the Bahamas, October 12th, 1492. So this is why some people celebrate Columbus Day, October 12th, 1492. I celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day because there was African people in this land we call the U.S. and also in some of these other areas that he conquered. There were African people there before he even got there. So African Americans should celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. Indigenous Peoples Day includes African Americans also. That does not mean the transatlantic slave trade did not happen. Some people just want to claim slavery. We got to claim slavery. Oh, you're trying to take slavery away from us? No. You need to understand a chronology of history of the last 50,000 years of history, not just the last 500 years of history. Yes, the transatlantic slave trade happened. Okay, we're not trying to take slavery away from it. We're not trying to say, oh, African people weren't slaves, because some people, that's just their claim to fame, slavery. No, slavery did happen. But you got to understand tens of thousands of years of history in that chronology of history before 1441, before 1555, before 1526, and the Spanish are taking Africans into the territory we call Georgia and South Carolina today. 93 years before August 19th, August 20th, 1619. That's 93 years before that. The Spanish are taking Africans into South Carolina, the territory we call South Carolina. Okay, so he goes into the Bahamas. He goes into his first voyage, Cuba, Hispaniola. His second voyage, September 1493, goes into the West Indies and Puerto Rico and Jamaica, 1494. All this is Spain. Okay, King Ferdinand, Queen Isabella, these Spanish invaders. All this is Spain doing all this treachery, killing tens of thousands of people. Actually, I'm sorry, millions of people. It was millions of people. Third voyage, May 1498, Trinidad and Venezuelan mainland. Fourth voyage and last voyage, May 1504, Panama and Honduras. So number one, Columbus never comes to the land that we call the United States of America. So please stop teaching our children. Please stop saying this in school. Columbus discovered America. There was already Native Americans and African people there, number one. Two, he had some Moors navigating his ships. A lot of people like Dr. Jose Pimenta Bay and Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, and Professor Kaba is one of my teachers. A lot of them don't think Columbus was lost in the first place because as Professor Kaba says, a third grader knows that based upon where the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening, you know which direction you're going in. And he had Moors navigating his ships, like the Pedro Alonso Nino, the Nino brothers, things like this. So it's really believed by like real scholars that Columbus knew where he was going. He wasn't lost. He's using nautical instruments also based upon the technology that the Moors introduced into Europe, which is another problem. Once again, this is why I say I wish we never taught them, because personally, when we really study this history and look at it chronologically, the transatlantic slave trade is really Europeans getting revenge on the African Moors and what the Moors did in Europe. And because the Moors are going to Africanize various parts of Europe to various degrees, the Moors are going to intermix into the European population and change the complexion of many Europeans, intermix into the European bloodline. And one of the things they're going to do, especially like the Spanish, when they set up their colonies, one of the things they're going to do is forbid intermixing with, especially in the Spanish colonies, they forbid intermixing between the races. And the Spanish are going to forbid when they conquer the slaves, when they enslave people and take them into these colonies, they're going to forbid them to learn to read and write also. Well, it's the Moors that taught a lot of the Spanish to read and write. All this stuff comes back to kick us in the behind. So we deal with all of this history. And then in the second class, we deal with history from 1803 through 1968. Okay, and that's a deep class there also. We had a good sessions today, and we dealt with the Reconstruction Era. And with Reconstruction is a period of history that is not talked about a lot. Okay, Reconstruction is directly related to what's going on today. The political violence that we see, the voter suppression laws that we see. I talked about this article here in class today. This is from Time Magazine, because like I said, I monitor about 35 different news sources on a daily basis. So I pull articles from all different news sources: National Geographic, Time Magazine, Washington Post, New York Times, everything, NBC News, all different types of sources. This article right here came out January 12th, 2021. January 12th, 2022, I should say. This was 1 year, 6 months after the January 6th, 2021 insurrection. This article helps to bring all this stuff together, connect all this together. This is something I've been talking about. This is related to the meeting that President Joe Biden had with historians on August 4th. And it dealt with how these historians are telling President Joe Biden, they're warning him that America's democracy is teetering, and they're talking about what leads up. They're talking about the years that lead up to the 1860 presidential election that Lincoln won, and what leads up to the Civil War taking place. Well, if we look at this article here, this deals with Reconstruction, 1865 to 1877, and how the Reconstruction era is not properly taught in schools across the country. Okay, 45 states. And let me pull up this briefly here. I'm going to pull up the presentation that we class for from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Okay, let's close some of this other stuff out. A new report finds that 45 states are failing to teach students about the period that shaped race relations after the Civil War. Okay, this deals with the Reconstruction era. It draws a direct relationship between that history and the political violence we saw January 6, 2021. One of the foremost authorities on the Reconstruction era is Eric Foner, historian and Pulitzer Prize winning author Eric Foner, author of the book Reconstruction, America's Unfinished Revolution, 1863 to 1877. Now, he said in an interview a week after the January 6, 2021 insurrection, interview with New Yorker magazine, the article starts out and says, in the aftermath of the insurrection a year ago at the U.S. Capitol, many leading historians drew parallels between the violence that we saw January 6, 2021 and the Reconstruction era, the period of political revolution directly following the U.S. Civil War, which is 1861-1875. Historian Eric Foner said, quote, the events we saw reminded me very much of the Reconstruction era and the overthrow of Reconstruction. And the overthrow of Reconstruction, which was often accompanied or accomplished, I should say, by violent assaults on elected officials. By violent assaults on elected officials. The difference is you didn't have a sitting president sending domestic terrorists to storm the U.S. Capitol building like you did January 6, 2021. Now, scholars say studying the aftermath of the Civil War, which is the Reconstruction era, can put in context many of the seminal events in the U.S. in recent years, from the brutal murder of George Floyd by police in 2021 to the voter suppression laws enacted after African-American voters played a big role in helping Joe Biden and Kamala Harris be elected president and vice president. Okay, and that's reminiscent. So it starts out in Georgia with Senate Bill 202, crafted by Heritage Action for America, and Jessica Anderson, who's the executive director of Heritage Action for America, which is the sister organization to the Heritage Foundation, is going to be Paul Weyrich, who's a co-founder of the Heritage Foundation, but also ALEC, American Legislative Exchange Council, is going to be Paul Weyrich and Jerry Falwell in 1980, who create this whole religious right movement, which leads to about 42 years later, overturning Roe versus Wade. The seeds of that goes back to 1980 and Paul Weyrich and Jerry Falwell. But despite the timeliness of the era in today's climate, many students in American schools will not get a full education on the Reconstruction period until they go to college, but most of them go to college. In social studies standards for 45 out of 50 states and the District of Columbia, discussion of Reconstruction is partial or non-existent. Discussion of Reconstruction is partial or non-existent, according to historians who have reviewed how the period is discussed in K through 12 studies, study standards for public schools nationwide. Now, this basically is before the these anti-critical race theory laws start popping up. It was partial or non-existent basically before those laws, because the anti-critical race theory laws are so vague in many states. It's creating fear and anxiety amongst teachers. So they're confused on what they can teach. So they're less likely to really dig into and teach the history of slavery and Jim Crow segregation and white supremacy and racism, things like this, because they don't want to get fired from their job. Understandably so. They don't want to be sued. Understandably so. A lot of these laws are so vague, they're confused on what they can and can't teach. Now, in a report produced by the education nonprofit, the Zen Education Project, and we use some of their articles in our classes, The study's authors say they are concerned that American children will grow up to be uninformed about a critical period of history that helps to explain why full racial equality remains unfulfilled today. This is what's going on today is directly related to what happened during Reconstruction, the overthrow of Reconstruction, the compromise of 1877 between the Democrats and Republicans, where neither one, Rutherford B. Hayes or Samuel J. Tilden, had enough electoral college votes to become president. They cut a backroom deal. The Republicans say, you let Rutherford B. Hayes become president, he'll remove the remaining Union troops out of the South to allow the Southern segregationists to take back full control of the Southern government, state and local governments. And this is what happens. Okay. Then they're going to impose poll taxes, starting with Florida in 1889. Now look at what's going on in Florida. See, Florida needs to be desanitized. You got Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida. Florida needs to be desanitized. For re-election, he needs to be defeated. Okay. November 2022. Elections have consequences. These elections have deadly results. So if Andrew Gillum was governor of Florida, especially during COVID-19, I guarantee you he would have saved a lot more lives. He would have been more prudent. He would have followed the science. He would not have been so cavalier in handling COVID. He would have shut down the schools sooner. He would have saved a lot. He would have saved thousands of people's lives. He would have saved thousands of people's lives, including African-American lives. But you had Ron DeSantis as governor, anti-science, don't say gay bill, Ron DeSantis. So Florida needs to be desanitized. The Mississippi plan to keep blacks from voting in 1890. The Mississippi plan to keep blacks from voting in 1890. We came here to exclude the Negro. So after you have the overthrow of Reconstruction, then you have, like in about 1881, the Tennessee state legislature, they're going to pass laws to segregate streetcars and public transportation, things like this. Florida, 1889, passes the first poll taxes. So they charge, you have to pay a tax to register to vote, which will exclude a lot of African Americans because we couldn't pay the poll tax. What Mississippi did in 1890 became copied by the other southern states. South Carolina, 1895, Louisiana, 1891, Alabama, 1901, Georgia, North Carolina, things like this. The Mississippi plan to keep blacks from voting in 1890, we came here to exclude the Negro. Now, this is a direct quote from Solomon Saladin Calhoun, who was the white county judge who presided over the Mississippi State Convention. And he said, let's tell the truth. When it came to why they were there, he put the voting issue bluntly. He said, let's tell the truth. If it burst the bottom of the universe, he said. He said, quote, we came here to exclude the Negro. Nothing short of this will answer. This is a direct quote. This is how devious these people were. African Americans were the majority of the voters in Mississippi. They purposely rewrote the state constitution to impose poll taxes and literacy tests to suppress the African American vote, which is exactly why you had to have a Voting Rights Act in 1965. So when we look at, so we deal with all this in this 10-week online class that I teach on Sundays, normally Sundays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1868. Now, I've been studying history 30 years. I'm the one that put together all this content for both classes. This is a hell of a lot of work, okay? Because the first class that I teach, the one on Saturdays, that I started teaching that class in 2017. It evolved out of a 4.5-hour lecture that I did in 2014 called Ancient Kemet, the Moors and the Maafa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade. That lecture was the culmination of 7 years of research. And then over time, that developed into an online course and it's exploded into what it is today. But I had so much information and I wanted to focus in on this second period of history because there's so much going on from 1803 with the Haitian Revolution and the Louisiana Purchase. It's so much going on from 1803 to 1968, just that period of history. And we really need to go deep into that and analyze what happened, that I had to create a second. I couldn't get all that information into the first class. I had to create a second class so we can get deep into this history. Okay, so what happens is that delegates eventually adopted a literacy test and poll tax geared to suppress the black vote in a state with a black majority. Mississippi had an African-American majority. When you look at South Carolina, the majority during Reconstruction, there were 2,000 approximately African-American men who got elected to public office nationwide. And 90% of African-Americans were in the South, okay? Even up until 1910, 5 years before the Great Migration begins, 90% of African-Americans are in the South. The Mississippi Plan became the model throughout the South, part of a raft of racially oppressive Jim Crow laws that ends Reconstruction. So the other Southern states adopt what Mississippi did, okay? So if we look at this piece right here, and we talked about this in class today from the Zen Education Project. So when you register for this class, you can go watch the entire, we did 2 hours today. You can go watch the entire class, and you can go watch the previous classes because they're all archived, okay? If we look at this piece right here from the Zen Education Project, how's everybody doing? How y'all like this type of information? You can post your comments here on the thread of the broadcast. Are you learning anything? You like this type of information? Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like. This article here from the Zen Education Project, November 1st, 1890, Mississippi Constitution. Okay. Now, if you watched Eyes on the Prize, and I have the Eyes on the Prize box set, I ordered it from Amazon.com. I have the Eyes on the Prize box set documentary. When they talk about the Voting Rights Act of 1965 in Eyes on the Prize, they talk about the Mississippi State Convention of 1890. So it was on November 1st, 1890, Mississippi adopted a new constitution with a poll tax and arbitrary literacy test for voting, sections designed to disenfranchise newly franchised African Americans and some poor whites. The new constitution was a nail in the coffin for Mississippi Reconstruction and a win for voter suppression. It brought an end to the period of democratic progress that followed the Civil War, when African Americans were the majority of eligible voters in Mississippi. African Americans were the majority of eligible voters in Mississippi, and these white supremacists, along with a simple Simon-ass Negro named Isaiah T. Montgomery. Isaiah T. Montgomery was the founder of Bayou, Mississippi. He was a former slave to the brother of Jefferson Davis. Jefferson Davis was from Mississippi, and he was the president of the Confederacy. And Isaiah T. Montgomery voted along with these white supremacists to suppress the African-American vote. And Frederick Douglass excoriated him, rightfully so. And personally, I don't know this for certain, but I think Isaiah T. Montgomery is a distant relative of Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, the black Republican senator who blocked the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, the black Republican senator who voted against Kristen Clark to be Assistant Attorney General of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, the African-American woman. This Negro voted against her. That Tim Scott. I think he's related to Isaiah T. Montgomery. If he's not, they're play cousins. If they're not related by blood, they're play cousins. So what happens is that the other Southern states do the same thing that Mississippi does, okay? This can be seen in so if we go back here, every Southern state instituted literacy tests and poll taxes to effectively remove African Americans from the citizenship they were supposed to have been guaranteed by the 14th Amendment of 1868. This can be seen in the state constitutions with similar voter suppression statutes adopted by South Carolina 1895, Louisiana 1898. Then Louisiana is going to institute the grandfather clause, which states that if your grandfather prior to 1867 could not vote, then you can't vote. Another way to get around the 15th Amendment of 1870. North Carolina 1900, Alabama 1901. Alabama still has racist language in their state constitution because there was an Alabama Reconstruction Constitution in 1867 that is going to create a public school system. And during Reconstruction, African Americans are showing America how to have a democracy. That gets overthrown. They come with the Alabama State Constitution in 1901, that institutes poll taxes and literacy tests and puts in place segregation. So in Montgomery, Alabama, when they have the Montgomery bus boycott of 1955 that starts Monday morning, December 5th, 1955, people misunderstand the Montgomery bus boycott and think it was about African Americans want to sit at the front of the bus with white people. No, they wanted to break the back of segregation in Montgomery, Alabama, which was the capital of Alabama, and then eventually destroy segregation in all of Alabama. But segregation is written into the state constitution. So they go to the federal government for help because they knew they couldn't get help at the state government. Because hell, in 1957, the state legislature in Alabama redrew the district lines in Tuskegee, okay, to lock out almost all of the African American voters in Tuskegee, Alabama. This leads to economic boycott that's four times as long as the Montgomery bus boycott. The Montgomery bus boycott was 381 days. The Tuskegee, Alabama economic boycott goes from 1957 to 1961, which leads to the U.S. Supreme Court case of Gomillion versus Lightfoot, because they sue the state legislature because the state legislature is purposely trying to gerrymander the district to reduce the political power of African American voters there in Tuskegee, Alabama. This is how devious these people are, where their sons and their grandchildren are doing the same damn thing in Republican state legislatures across the country. This is why we got to pull our head out of our asses and connect what's going on today to this history and understand how all this is connected. But now they're trying to suppress not just the vote of African Americans, but Latinos, Asian Americans, Native Americans, and many white people who vote for Democrats and not Republicans. Because there was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris got 81 million votes. 49 million of those votes, 61% came from white people. I know people like to think that the majority of the votes came from African Americans. No, they didn't. He got 81 million votes. There's only 30 million African Americans registered to vote. 16.9 million voted. 9.7 million Latinos voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But 49 million white people voted. 61%, more than 50% of his votes came from white people. Okay, so check this out. This is just a fraction of the type of information that we deal with in this class. So give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast. How you like this type of information? Okay, Ruby, how you doing, Ruby? Okay, so you can register for these online classes. I'm gonna post the link here. Now we have a bundle pack. You can register for both classes for $100. Okay, because normally these classes are $130 each. But we have them discounted the $30 each. And I'm going to post a link here for the bundle. Post a link here for the bundle pack. As soon as you register, you can start watching content, or you can go to our new website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime, a year from now, 2 years from now. You go back and watch the entire class, either one of these classes. Okay. And you can use this information with your children also. So this is the second class, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. There's a ton of information in this class. And I created the curriculum for this as well. Both of these classes, I created the curriculum. Click right here to register here. For the bundle pack, click right. We have the information for the bundle. Click right here for the bundle. You get both classes for $100. It's about a $385 value because it's going to be bonus lectures that you get in digital format from me also when you register for this. If you've taken any of my online classes in the past, email me and you'll get a 50% discount. Email me at TheAHNShow@TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com, or just click right here, contact the African History Network. Just click right there and you can email us right through the website. Okay, just just click right there, contact us. All right. And this is some of the slides we deal with in the second class, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1960. And like I said, we start out with the Louisiana Purchase and the Haitian Revolution, and deal with how those two events are related. Okay, right here. We deal with the Louisiana Purchase and the Haitian Revolution, and how those two events are related. And then we go out through history chronologically, basically year by year, and deal with what leads up to the Civil War taking place. We talk about the Missouri Compromise of 1820, Texas Revolution 1836, Mexican-American War 1846, 1848, Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo 1848, where the U.S. gets California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Nevada from Mexico for $15 million. Mexico loses about a third of their land. Okay, the Mexican-American War, which leads to the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. We deal with the Compromise of 1850, which deals with organizing the land that the U.S. got from Mexico. And the Compromise of 1850 includes, it consists of 5 bills. And one of those bills, the fifth one, is the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, which intensifies the abolitionist movement, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. Then you have the Harriet Beecher Stowe writing her novel Uncle Tom's Cabin in 1852, which also intensifies the abolitionist movement and exposes America to the horrors of slavery. It becomes an international bestseller, sells 300,000 copies its first year. It's based upon the autobiography of a real life man named Josiah Henson, who was a slave in Maryland, and he and his family run away from Maryland and go up north and then go into Canada. So Harriet Beecher Stowe reads his autobiography, and she patterns the fictitious character of Uncle Tom in the novel Uncle Tom's Cabin. That's patterned after the real life runaway slave Josiah Henson. That talked about in an episode of The Jeffersons, where Louisa's uncle comes to visit, and he's played by the same actor who played Fred C. Davis on Good Times, and he was Fred Sanford's cousin Grady, bald-headed cousin Grady on Sanford and Son. Grady, you better go join your lady. Remember when Betty Jean comes to visit, heavyset Betty Jean, and then Lamont's going to marry her because she has a dowry. Okay, so that Grady with the bald head who played Fred's cousin, he was on an episode of The Jeffersons, and he breaks down the history of Josiah Henson. So we talk about the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. As a result of the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, which opens up slavery in the Kansas-Nebraska territory and leaves up to people living in those territories to determine whether or not they want to have slavery, as opposed to it being dictated by the federal government. This is going to lead to the Republican Party being founded in 1854 as a backlash to the Kansas-Nebraska Act. The Republican Party is founded largely by groups of abolitionists. And in 1860, their candidate for president, November 1860, Abraham Lincoln, becomes president-elect. 6 weeks later, South Carolina secedes from the Union December 20th, 1860, because they think Lincoln's going to free the slaves. They're going to be followed by other states going into February and March of 1861. You're going to have the Confederate States of America that's founded right around March 1861. April 12, 1861, you have the attack on Fort Sumter, which was a federal stronghold, military stronghold in South Carolina. It's attacked because those in South Carolina are trying to get the Union troops out of the South. And this is what launches the Civil War, the U.S. Civil War, which goes from 1861 to 1865. So we deal with Juneteenth. We deal with the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment. One of the things we talked about in class today is how the 15th Amendment, nowhere in the U.S. Constitution does it explicitly give anyone the right to vote. In this article right here from Smithsonian Institute, si.edu, americanhistory.si.edu, which is from the Smithsonian Institute, this article entitled, "Does an Amendment Give You the Right to Vote?" Okay, does an amendment give you the right to vote? Now, this article came out February 3rd, 2020, and I did a lecture around this time when this article came out. February 3rd, 2020 was the 150th anniversary of the adoption of the 15th Amendment of 1870, which guaranteed the right to vote for African-American men. But nowhere in the U.S. Constitution does it explicitly give anyone the right to vote. And even the 15th Amendment says there are only two sections to the 15th Amendment. Section 1 says the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Now, Section 2, so it's saying that you cannot put impediments in the way of the right to vote. It's guaranteeing the right to vote. But nowhere, as this slide says here, and this comes directly from the article from Smithsonian Institute, as written, the 15th Amendment does not explicitly grant anyone the right to vote. Instead, it prohibits federal and state governments from placing restrictions on voting based on three criteria: race, color, and previous condition of servitude. The entire amendment is 2 sentences long. Now, the second section of the 15th Amendment of 1870 says the Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Now, amendment means to alter or to change. Prior to 1870, what gave people the right to vote? And it was largely white men voting. There's nothing in the U.S. Constitution that explicitly gives anyone the right to vote. And then the 19th Amendment of 1920, which guaranteed the right to vote to women, and the 26th Amendment of 1971 that lowered the minimum age to vote from 21 to 18, the structure of that language in those two amendments is based upon the structure of the language in the 15th Amendment. Now, Justice Anthony Scalia, before he died, he actually said that nowhere in the U.S. Constitution does it give anyone the right to vote. He's correct. I despise him, but he's correct. Okay. So we deal with this history chronologically. This is normally a 10-week online course. As soon as you register, we did class 7 today. There's going to be, we'll probably have 12 sessions this time around instead of 10, because early on, this has been a very, very bad allergy season. Okay. Those that are allergic to pollen know what I'm talking about. So early on, like the first couple of sessions, I had to cut them short because my allergies were killing me. I could only talk 30 minutes, 45 minutes. The allergies are much better now. This is probably the worst allergy season I've seen in the past 5 to 7 years. Okay. So we're going to probably do 12 sessions. But once again, all the sessions we do live, they're archived. You can watch them anytime. Of course, we talk about the Mississippi State Convention of 1890. Right here, Vicksburg Massacre, 1874. We go look at these massacres. You follow Massacre, 1874. You follow Alabama, Vicksburg Massacre, Clinton, Mississippi Massacre, 1875. You have to go look at these massacres because they were attacking African-American voting rights, political violence to intimidate us, to keep us from voting. Just like today, just like the attack on the U.S. Capitol. And you have to understand how devious Trump is. This is why this demon can never become president again. Because what he did weeks leading up to the January 6, 2021 insurrection, he targeted 4 cities that had high African-American populations and called for, he said that the votes were illegal. There were fraudulent votes. He called for recounting of the votes. What were those 4 cities? Detroit, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. He targeted these 4 cities that have a high African-American population. Okay. And he incited these white supremacist domestic terrorists and said that they're look, I live 4 minutes away from the TCF Center, downtown Detroit. There were Trump supporters outside trying to get inside while the vote counting was going on. I live 4 minutes away from the TCF Center in downtown Detroit. I drove by there. The police had it blocked off. You couldn't even get, after a certain time, they had it blocked off. Okay. This is what this demon incited. This is why this domestic terrorist can never hold political office. His ass belongs in prison. He can never hold political office ever again. Okay. That cannot happen, because the second time they're going to complete the coup. The first time was a dress rehearsal. The second time they're going to complete the coup, because now what this demon is doing is putting election deniers in place to be over elections. So Doug Mastriano is running for governor of Pennsylvania. He has to be defeated because the governor of Pennsylvania appoints the Secretary of State. He already said he's going to support a Secretary of State who will overthrow election results and do what Trump wants to do. You got Kerry Lake running for governor of Arizona, another election denier, another person that must be defeated. This is a continuation of the Civil War and Reconstruction. These people are not playing games. They're playing for keeps. We got to get our head out of our asses. Stop listening to negative corporate controlled hip hop that dumbs us down and understand what's really going on. This is a continuation of the Civil War and Reconstruction. And now you got all these armed domestic terrorists. Okay, so segregation of public transportation, 1881. This is why I'm for the FBI hunting down every last one of these goddamn domestic terrorists and prosecute them to the full extent for the law. I'm rooting for the FBI. I know they're against Dr. King and all that. No, I'm rooting for the FBI, Merrick Garland, Kristen Clark. I want them to hunt down every last one of these goddamn domestic terrorists who are trying to overthrow the government. They've already arrested 850 and charged them, and they're prosecuting them now. You just had a former police officer, former white police officer, who just got convicted. He's getting 7 years. Involved in this domestic terrorist. Okay, there's another 1,200 of these domestic terrorists that the FBI is looking for. Drop a dime on these people. I'm rooting for the FBI. Okay, no, we don't want African Americans unjustly persecuted, things like that. I'm rooting for the FBI. If I could join the FBI and hunt down these domestic terrorists, I would do it. Oh, hell no. Because this goes back to why the Department of Justice was created in the first place, going back to 1870 during Reconstruction. Let's take it back to a Reconstruction era. This is how all this history is connected. Okay. The first Attorney General under the Department of Justice, 1870, Amos T. Ackerman, created 150 years ago. The Justice Department's first mission was to protect Black rights. And that's exactly what they're doing today. And the best way to do that is to go after these domestic terrorists. In the wake of the Civil War, the government's new force sought to enshrine equality under the law, July 1st, 2020. Okay, now this caricature here, a cartoon by illustrator Thomas Nast. Thomas Nast is also the illustrator who's going to create the image of what we know as Santa Claus coming from center class. Okay, that's a whole nother conversation. We talked about that in my class on Saturday. A cartoon by illustrator Thomas Nast shows a member of the White League, which was another domestic terrorist organization, because they're involved in the Eufaula massacre of 1874 in Alabama, the White League. It wasn't just the Ku Klux Klan. And just because somebody puts on a white sheet and a hood don't mean they're a member of the Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan was a fraternal organization. They had bylaws. There was an intake process to become a Klan member. So just because somebody wears a white sheet and a hood doesn't mean they're a member of the Klan. A cartoon by illustrator Thomas Nast shows a member of the White League and a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Keep in mind, member of the Klan. That was a fraternal organization originally founded December 24th, 1865 in Pulaski, Tennessee. It shows them joining hands over a terrorized Black family. Okay. And it says here, the Union as it was, this is a white man's government, the lost cause, worse than slavery. So the lost cause was this about 150-year effort to rewrite the history of the Civil War and teach this revisionist history and say that the South seceded from the Union for states' rights not to maintain slavery, all this nonsense, okay? Amos T. Ackerman was an unlikely figure to head the newly formed Department of Justice. In 1870, the United States was still working to bind up the nation's wounds, torn open by the Civil War. During this period of Reconstruction, once again, this deals with this period of history, Reconstruction. During this period, and where's that article? I got that article here printed. Right, okay. Because I got all these, I have thousands of articles printed. I'm in the process of organizing the office and putting all this, more of this stuff in file folders. I got stacks of articles all over the place. During this period of Reconstruction, the federal government committed itself to guaranteeing, check this out, the federal government committed itself to guaranteeing full citizenship rights to all Americans, regardless of race. At the forefront of that effort was Amos T. Ackerman, a former Democrat and enslaver from Georgia, former slave owner from Georgia, and a former officer in the Confederate Army. The United States had an attorney general since the formation of the government in 1789, as created by the U.S. Constitution. None had been empowered with the full force of a consolidated legal team quite like Amos T. Ackerman. And none had the monumental task of enforcing the 14th and 15th Amendments and new legislation delivering long overdue rights to 4 million formerly enslaved African-American men and women. So the Department of Justice is formed to enforce these new rights that African-Americans have. This is why more of us need to apply to the Department of Justice. And I would say to go after these domestic terrorists, we need to apply to the FBI also. Oh, yes. No. We need to apply to the FBI and go after, hunt down every last one of these domestic terrorists. This department's work on behalf of the emancipated population was so central to its early mission that Amos T. Ackerman established the department's headquarters in the Freedmen's Savings Bank building, because Freedmen's Bank created in 1865 by act of Congress as well, to help African Americans save their money that they're making because they're negotiating labor contracts and things like this, because the U.S. Bureau of Freedmen, Refugees, and Abandoned Lands, they're helping African Americans do a number of things. They're providing health care, building schools, feeding them, but they're also helping them put their money in the banks also, so the Freedmen's Bank. In the immediate wake of the Civil War, Amos T. Ackerman, a New Hampshireite who settled in Georgia in the 1840s, looked to the future, leaving the Democrats for the Republicans and prosecuting voter intimidation cases as a U.S. district attorney in his adopted state of Georgia. Reflecting on his decision to switch his allegiance to the party of Lincoln, Amos T. Ackerman said, quote, "Some of us who had adhered to the Confederacy felt it to be our duty when we were to participate in the politics of the Union to let the Confederate ideals rule us no longer. To let the Confederate ideas rule us no longer. Regarding the subjugation of one race by the other as an appurtenance of slavery, we were content that it should go to the grave in which slavery had been buried. We were content that it should go to the grave in which slavery had been buried." Okay. Ackerman's work caught the attention of President Ulysses S. Grant, who was former general in the Union Army during the Civil War, who promoted Amos T. Ackerman to Attorney General in June 1870. On July 1st, 1870, the Department of Justice created to handle the onslaught of post-Civil War litigation became an official government department with Amos T. Ackerman at its helm. The focus of his 18-month tenure as the nation's top law enforcement official was the protection of Black voting rights from the systematic violence of the Ku Klux Klan. Okay, this is the focus of the first 18 months of the Department of Justice when it comes into existence in 1870. To the protection of Black voting rights from the systematic violence of the Klan and other Klan-like organizations we had to that, like the White League. Ackerman's Justice Department prosecuted and chased from southern states hundreds of Klan members, Today, the Justice Department is prosecuting many of their descendants who are the domestic terrorists who stormed the U.S. Capitol building January 6, 2021. We need to apply to the Department of Justice and hunt down every last one of these traitors. In the tradition of the Department of Justice, take it back to the old school. In the tradition of the Department of Justice, go after all these coup plotters. Historian William McFeely, in his biography on Amos T. Ackerman, wrote, quote, perhaps no attorney general since his tenure has been more vigorous in the prosecution of cases designed to protect the lives and rights of Black Americans. Take it back to the old school. We need to apply to the Department of Justice. That's why I was cheering when Assistant Attorney General of the Civil Rights Division, our sister Kristen Clark, when she was confirmed by the U.S. Senate, and Joe Manchin voted against her, and so did punk ass Senator Tim Scott, black Republican. He had no excuse for voting against that sister. Luckily, Susan Collin of Maine voted for her, okay? And then the tie-breaking vote, I think the tiebreaker was Vice President Kamala Harris. So I think it was 51-50, that vote, okay? You don't get a Kristen Clark as Assistant Attorney General as the Civil Rights Division without voting. That's how she became that. You don't get a Merrick Garland. You don't get them prosecuting these 4 officers involved in killing Breonna Taylor without voting. This one here, where is that? We've got that graphic that I created. Okay, it's TheAHNShow. And this one here should be Breonna Taylor. This right here. Let me pull this graphic up here. This is from our show from last Sunday. We talked about this in Roland Martin Unfiltered. Breonna Taylor update: 4 officers charged in the Department of Justice in her killing after 874 days. That's the result of voting. You don't get those charges from the federal government because the Trump administration was not going to charge them. And the Trump administration backed off of holding police officers accountable, and they backed off of the investigation into the patterns and practices of police departments, because it was April of 2021 that the Merrick Garland Justice Department launched a pattern and practice investigation into the Louisville Metropolitan Police Department. You don't get that without voting. And this is Assistant Attorney General of the Civil Rights Division, Kristen Clark. You don't get her without voting. All right. So how's everybody doing? Hopefully you like this type of information. Please register for these online courses. This helps support the African History Network. This helps us finance the research that I do, help support the African History Network show, help us pay some of the bills, etc. Okay, so you can visit our website, TheAFricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the classes now. As soon as you register, you start watching the content. You don't have to wait till the next class. We have archived content. You can start watching. You watch the classes we did this weekend. And the best value is the bundle pack. You get both classes for $100. Okay, you get both classes for $100. So we got the information right here at our website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. This really, really helps us because there's so many things that I want to do. I got to buy new equipment. I want to take this to the next level, but I can't. It costs money to do all that. So this is what it is. All right. So we have the link here in the thread of the broadcast. You can go to our new website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. I built a new website. It costs money to do that as well. I think I had to pay like $180 because with WordPress, they wanted me to pay all. See, with 1-in-1, I could pay each month. WordPress wanted me to pay all the money up front. So I had to pay like $180 to be able to build a new website, and I'm still adding to it. So all this stuff here, this stuff ain't easy. I'm telling you right now. Okay, I guess maybe I'll make it look easy. No, this stuff is not easy. All right. So this is our new website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And you can go there, and we have the link here in the thread of the broadcast also So you can register for the classes. The content I would say is PG-13. You can use this with your children. And we're getting into selling children's books also. Okay, this was another reason why I'm trying to expand, because I ordered some children's books. We sold it. I got to restock books for African-American children to deal with positive self-esteem, teaching them love themselves, teaching them history, things like that. So we're expanding. We still sell some DVDs. I'm going to start, we're shifting more to digital format. We'll still sell some DVDs, but I'm also getting into selling books as well. And I'm working on writing my first book also. So I have 60 pages of my first book written. I'm hopefully, that's going to cost money to get that published. Hopefully we'll get that out in September 2022, because it's going to deal with midterm elections also. Okay. So we posted the link here as well, and we have it in thread of the broadcast. All right. We got to get out of here. And then Cash App, PayPal information is at our website. We have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Also, I said we'll talk about R. Kelly. So this article here, let's squeeze this in right quick, because we talked about it on Roland Martin Unfiltered. So that's why I already had this information teed up, and I already read the article. What to know about R. Kelly's new Chicago trial? What to know about R. Kelly's new Chicago trial? Okay, let me change the heading here also for the lower third. So his trial starts. This is a Chicago trial. This deals with pornography, child pornography. Okay, child pornography. It's like 5 or 6 counts of child pornography, and Kelly faces 6 child pornography counts and 5 counts of enticing a minor to engage in criminal sexual activity. Now he's already in prison, and he ain't going nowhere. I know he wishes he can fly. He gonna die in prison probably. Okay, that's just the way it is. And the only reason why R. Kelly, now yes, he was a musical genius, but he's a pervert also. Okay, and we just got to deal with that. Yes, he was sexually abused. Yes, he needs therapy. He needs mental health and all. He needs all that, and he still belongs in prison. And then also the people who were enablers around him and did his bidding, they belong in prison also. He didn't do all that by himself. That's true. What to know about R. Kelly's new Chicago trial? This is from the Chicago Sun-Times, April 12, 2022. We skip down here. What are the charges against R. Kelly? R. Kelly faces 6 child pornography counts and 5 counts of enticing a minor to engage in criminal sexual activity. He also faces 2 conspiracy counts, one to receive child pornography and the other to obstruct justice. Okay. Now, how is this trial connected to the one in 2008? How is this trial connected to the one in 2008? Okay. And if we back up here, singer R. Kelly is back in a Chicago courtroom this month. But a lot has changed since the R&B star's 2008 trial in Cook County's criminal courthouse, especially in the wake of his 2021 conviction in New York. So when we look at these charges now, jury selection begins Monday, August 15th, 2022 in the Chicago trial. The alleged obstruction of justice conspiracy revolves around R. Kelly's 2008 state court trial in Cook County, 2008 state court trial in Cook County, where he was found not guilty. That case began in 2002 after a videotape allegedly depicting R. Kelly performing sex acts with a minor was sent anonymously to the Chicago Sun-Times. Okay. Jurors found R. Kelly not guilty, and later they said they did so because the alleged victim did not testify. Now, here's the important part here. One of the important parts. federal prosecutors now say R. Kelly and others pressured, intimidated, and paid off witnesses in the case. They're going after everybody. Federal prosecutors now say that R. Kelly and others in the 2008 pornography case that he was found not guilty in because the victim did not testify. Federal prosecutors now say R. Kelly and others intimidated and paid off witnesses in that case, including the alleged victim and members of her family. They need to go after everybody. They need to go after everybody. This time around, the alleged victim from the 2008 trial is expected to take the witness stand. Go after everybody. His ass needs to stay in prison. Now, why is R. Kelly being tried again after the Brooklyn conviction? Okay? Because, first of all, the victims deserve justice for what was done to them. The victims deserve justice for what was done to them. It may seem like piling on for federal prosecutors. No, it's not. To take R. Kelly to trial again, all over again, 6 weeks after a judge in New York sentenced him to 30 years in prison. He had it coming. He had it coming. But legal experts say this trial could vindicate further victims. Legal experts say this trial could vindicate further victims. Now, let's be clear. And if you watch Surviving R. Kelly, and I watched the first Surviving R. Kelly and the second one, the only reason, and I want people to understand this, because this deals with not protecting African-American women and girls. And African-American women and girls, you know, Malcolm X used to say the most disrespected woman in America is the black woman. Okay. This deals with adultification bias that we've talked about here on the show before. This is why I came out so strongly against the song WAP by Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, financed by a white corporation called Atlantic Records. The only reason why R. Kelly, and let me pull this up here. Just a second. Okay. So the only reason why R. Kelly was able to get away so long with what he did was because his victims were largely African-American women and girls. And largely when African-American women and girls are abused, molested, raped, physically abused, verbally abused, oftentimes people don't care. Now, if R. Kelly was outside of a high school in Chicago talking to 15, 16, 17-year-old white girls after school, we all know that behavior would have been put to a stop 30 years ago. We know that behavior would have been put to a stop 30 years ago. And it may have been put to a permanent stop. We know that the white parents, the white administrators at that school, the principals, the police, who's this Negro out here talking to these white girls after school, day after day? They would have put that would have been stopped 30 years ago. The fact that we didn't stop it 30 years ago is problematic, and that's on us. We should have put that. We should have stopped that. If we value black girls and black women, we should have stopped that 30 years ago. All right, now, let's continue. So, how is, and I don't mean anything violently. I'm saying we should have stopped that 30 years ago. Call the police, stop it. Hey, what the hell are you doing out here? Get away from here. Don't come back here anymore. I'm not talking about anything violently. But if those had been white girls, see, you only protect what you respect. You only protect what you respect. If he was doing that to 15, 16, 17-year-old white girls, that behavior would have been put to a stop 30. That behavior would have been stopped 30 years ago, period. All right, let's go back to this article. Then I have to get out of here. But legal experts say the trial could vindicate further victims. And the failed attempt to hold R. Kelly accountable in 2008, because he should have been convicted in 2008. Not only that, but R. Kelly has filed an appeal in the New York case. You can file your appeal. You ain't going anywhere. In this latest trial, if this latest trial ends in a guilty verdict, it could help R. Kelly behind bars, even if his earlier conviction, it can keep R. Kelly behind bars, even if his earlier conviction is overturned. Now, who else is going to trial along with R. Kelly? Because all the enablers belong in prison also. It ain't just R. Kelly. He's the ringleader. He's the head of the criminal enterprise. But all the enablers belong in prison. Let's be clear. And if we're not willing to hold people accountable who sexually abuse Black girls and women, then what the hell are we doing? If we don't think enough of African American girls and women to protect them against sexual predators, then what does that say about us? Also charged in this case are two of R. Kelly's former employees, Darrell McDavid and Milton June Brown. Darrell McDavid is charged with R. Kelly in the obstruction of justice conspiracy, and two child pornography counts. And McDavid and Brown are charged with R. Kelly in the child pornography conspiracy. Hold all of them accountable. It's not just R. Kelly. He's the ringleader. Hold all of them accountable. All those involved in aiding in the sexual abuse of these women and girls, all of them belong in prison. Now, R. Kelly's lead attorney this time around will be Jennifer Bonjean, an aggressive lawyer with Chicago roots, whose recognition soared after she helped free actor Bill Cosby from prison. R. Kelly's not gonna go anywhere. He can believe he can fly, but his ass gonna hit a ceiling if he tries to fly away. She is a veteran of Chicago courts and is most well known here for her work in wrongful conviction cases. Now, how long will R. Kelly's trial last? U.S. District Judge Harry Lineweber, who is presiding over the trial, told attorneys he wants it done in 4 weeks, quote unquote, come hell or high water. Trial courtroom time is at a premium at the Dirksen Federal Courthouse, which is still operating under COVID-19 protocols. So this slows down the pace of the cases. COVID-19 protocols, a lot of courthouses have a backlog of cases, okay, because of COVID-19. If convicted on all counts, mandatory minimums would require a sentence of at least 55 years for R. Kelly. Okay, so, okay, yep, it is what it is. Gotta go. So read this article here from the Chicago Sun-Times. What to know about R. Kelly's new Chicago trial. What to know about R. Kelly's new Chicago trial. And, we've talked about adultification bias. We're going to wrap up on this. We talk about adultification bias here on this show before. I deal with this when I talk about the song WAP and other sexually explicit music. It wasn't just WAP. Now that one got the most attention. That one, I mean, it got 26 million views in 24 hours on Cardi B's YouTube channel alone. And then it got like 60 million views over that weekend, that first weekend when it came out on Cardi B's YouTube channel alone. I've got information. Let me see, where's my stack on dealing with adultification bias. And I want to pull up this article here There should be one from the root. Black women are right. Where's the one dealing with black girls? Hold on. Where's my stuff on adultification bias? This is why I had to organize the office. I have stacks of articles everywhere. Study black. Okay, not that one. There's this one. Hold on. I just saw it a couple days ago. It was in. That's not it. I just saw that. Hold on. Did I leave it here on the desk? Okay, that's dealing with African American roots of Labor Day. I just saw the stuff on my file on WAP. I just saw that. So there's one on, I think this is dealing with black girls, an adultification bias. Where is that one? There's one from theroot.com. Black girls with darker skin. Hold on. Here it is. I gotta find that because I just saw that stuff. Let me just pull up adultification bias. That's not it. I'm gonna organize some of this. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Let me pull this up. Adultification bias. Right here, Georgetown study confirms. Surprise! Georgetown study confirms previous findings in adultification bias in black girls. Okay, this is one. Let me see here. Okay, let's go with this one here for the sake of time. Because I have to get out of here. Okay, this article is from theroot.com. And name of this article, Surprising No One, Georgetown study confirms previous findings on adultification bias by listening to black women and girls. Adultification bias by listening to black women and girls. In 2017, the Georgetown Law Center on Poverty and Inequalities Initiative on Gender, Justice, and Opportunity released Girlhood Interrupted, the Erasure of Black Girls' Childhood. This study called Girlhood Interrupted, the Erasure of Black Girls' Childhood, providing concrete data that adults typically perceive black girls, particularly those aged 5 to 14, to be more adult-like and less innocent, than their white peers. Via responses garnered from a series of focus groups, the research team proved a type of gendered racial bias unique to black girls. Previous research had already proven the same bias against black boys. So this deals with how African-American girls are perceived to be less innocent. This is the one I want right here. Black girls are viewed as less innocent and more adult-like than white girls. This study, this is from July 28, 2017. This is the article I was looking for. The songs like WAP, songs like from Mulatto or Lotto, Very Freaky Girl, songs from Nicki Minaj, these hypersexualized lyrics, songs from DaBaby and others, they contribute to an unsafe environment for African-American girls and women. And we know African-American girls and women are more likely to be victims of abduction and forced into human trafficking also. Black girls are viewed as less innocent and more adult-like than their white girls. This is according to this study and other studies like this. A study, so this article is from June 28, 2017. A study released Tuesday reveals what many of us already know. Black girls in the age range of 5 to 14 are viewed as less innocent than their white counterparts. Black girls in the age range of 5 to 14 are viewed as less innocent than their white counterparts, revealing that race is often a factor in how a child's actions are perceived. Okay. And this affects African-American girls and boys in school also. Girlhood Interrupted, the Erasure of Black Girls' Childhood, was released by Georgetown Law Center on Poverty and Equality. And it builds on a similar study conducted by Professor Philip Atiba Goff, who you've seen numerous times on MSNBC. Philip Atiba Goff in 2014 that found that Black boys as early as age 10 are more likely than white boys to be misperceived as older, like the name will come to me in just a minute. Perceived as older, to be viewed as guilty of suspected crimes, and to face police violence if accused of a crime. And Dr. Philip Atiba Goff, he has his research at APA.org, American Psychological Association's website. Okay. For a reference, Tamir Rice, that's what I was thinking of. For a reference point, think of 12-year-old Tamir Rice, because the prosecutor who failed to prosecute the police officer who shot and killed Tamir Rice, the prosecutor, the old white prosecutor said Tamir Rice looked like he was 20 years old. He was 12. The old white prosecutor said Tamir Rice looked like he was 20 years old. He was 12 years old. The study found that survey participants believe that Black girls need less nurturing, need less protection, need to be supported and comforted less, are more independent, know more about adult topics, and more about sex. Where the hell you think they get ideas from like that, stereotypes from like that? From the media. This is a holdover from slavery, when African-American girls were made to be breeders and raped and made to be breeders. And then that same mentality continues after slavery ends. So when Atlantic Records finances songs like WAP and they use African-American women, and the bass line repeats the phrase, "There's some whores in this house," about 79 times in the song. And when you watch the video, all the women in the house are of African descent, except for Kylie Jenner. And there was a group of white people who created an online petition that have Kylie Jenner digitally removed from the video, because Kylie Jenner's a billionaire. They said Kylie Jenner doesn't belong in the video. The reason why they were saying that is because you only protect what you respect. They're trying to rescue white women. Now, now pay attention to what happened here. Why the hell isn't this showing up? Hold on. We want this article here. Pay attention to what happened here. Okay, this article. Yeah, there it is. No, we want this other article right here. This is the one I want. I've got two up, but by the root. This is the one I'm talking about right here. Black girls are viewed as less innocent and more adult-like than white girls. Black girls are viewed as less innocent and more adult-like than white girls, study shows. By Monique Judge, June 28th, 2017, from theroot.com. This is the article that we should be highlighting, okay? Let me get rid of these dumbass trolls. Okay, block these trolls on YouTube. All right. A study released Tuesday reveals that what many of us already know, Black girls in the age range of 5 to 14 are viewed as less innocent than their white counterparts, revealing that race is often a factor in how a child's actions are perceived. This deals with racism. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race, coming out of the ideology of European white supremacy for the purpose of preserving genetic white survival on a planet that's less than 10% European. Okay, so we're dealing with racism. We're dealing with a power structure. We're not just dealing with a stratification of humanity based upon characteristics and phenotypes and skin complexion. We're dealing with racism. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. The study Girlhood Interrupted: The Erasure of Black Girls' Childhood was released by the Georgetown Law Center on Poverty and Equality, and it builds on a similar study conducted by Professor Philip Atiba Goff, who you see often many times on MSNBC, in 2014. His study found that Black boys as early as age 10 are more likely than white boys to be misperceived as older, to be viewed as guilty of suspected crimes, and to face police violence if accused of a crime. And so we look at Tamir Rice, who was 12 years old. The prosecutor said Tamir Rice looked like he was 20. Who got shot and killed by the officer, and the police car hadn't even come to a complete stop before the officer shot him. Attorney Benjamin Crump timed it. It was about 1.8 seconds of the car arriving on the scene. They shot Tamir Rice. The study found that survey participants believe that Black girls need less nurturing. Can we blow this up? Let's blow this up. This is important. This deals with protecting African-American girls and women. You only protect what you respect. This is what white people did when they had an online petition to have Kylie Jenner digitally removed from the music video WAP. They didn't care about the Negroes in there. You Negroes can still do that because that's what we expect from you. Because you were slave breeders and wet nurses during slavery. That's what we expect from you. This white woman, oh, we got to rescue her. You Negroes can still be whores in the house. We got to protect women. You got to, sister, we got to get you out of here. The study found that survey participants believe that Black girls need less nurturing, need less protection. Protect the white woman, let the Negro stay in the whorehouse. The song says, repeats about 79 times, there's some whores in his house. You can let the Negro stay in the whorehouse, get the white woman out. Need to be supported and comforted less, are more independent, know more about adult topics, and know more about sex. These are the stereotypes that are projected onto African-American girls that are associated with African-American women that put African-American girls in danger and make them greater targets by perverts like R. Kelly for sexual abuse, exploitation, physical abuse, and human trafficking. These results have far-reaching implications and can be a contributing factor to the disproportionate rates of punitive treatment in the education and juvenile justice systems of Black girls. As an example, in the education system, Black girls may receive harsher punishment by educators and school resource officers, okay, SROs, school resource officers, who are police officers in the schools, and being perceived as not needing nurturing. Protection and support means that Black girls may lose out on leadership and mentorship opportunities in school. Okay, so read the rest of this here. This is deep. All this is connected. We're dealing with a system. All this is connected. So you can't separate R. Kelly from this right here. Because the only reason why he was able to get away with this for so long is many people don't care when black women and black girls are sexually abused. Once again, if he had been outside of a high school talking to 15, 16, 17-year-old white girls, that behavior would have been stopped 30 years ago. And then you look at the study from the American Psychological Association from Philip Atiba Goff dealing with black boys viewed as older. This one right here. Black boys viewed as older, less innocent than whites, research shows. Now, this is at the American Psychological Association's website, apa.org. This is research from Dr. Philip Atiba Goff. This is from 2014, apa.org. Black boys viewed as older, less innocent than whites, research finds. Police are likelier to use force against black children when officers dehumanize blacks, study says. Black boys as young as 10 years old may not be viewed, let's blow this up. Black boys as young as 10 years old may not be viewed in the same light of child innocence as their white peers, but instead are more likely to be mistaken as older, like Tamir Rice, or Emmett Till for that matter, be perceived as guilty and face police violence if accused of a crime, according to new research published by the American Psychological Association. Quote, children in most societies are considered to be in a distinct group with characteristics such as innocence and the need for protection. Characteristics such as innocence and the need for protection. Our research found that black boys can be seen as responsible for their actions at an age when white boys still benefit from the assumption that children are essentially innocent, said author Philip Atiba Goff, PhD. This is dealing with racism being a system of advantage and privileges. The advantages go to the innocence and protection for white boys, and the penalty for being black and appearing to be guilty and appearing to be older for African-American boys, as well as girls. The study was published online in APA's Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. All right, look, that's going to do it for us. We got to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. If you'd like to stop for information, please support the African History Network, $, the AHN Show through Cash App, through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. The information is at our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. Register for our online classes. My DVD lectures and digital downloads are at our website as well. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever.